Well, good evening to you joining us here on the Marcia Week Show. A particular good evening to the loyal opposition, all of you that are joining us on the show this evening. What a pleasure it is for us to have you with us. I trust that you are receiving us A-OK. I trust that you're hearing me all right. And I look forward to you confirming that. We are certainly thrilled to be here with you again tonight, Monday, June the 3rd. And I tell you what, an amazing, amazing time. I'm just confirming that we're up and running. If you're seeing us, just let me know. Just confirming that we are good to go. Uh, just looking for that confirmation this evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Are you picking me up? I trust you are. Great. I can see that we are live on YouTube. I believe we will be live by now on Facebook. But a pleasure for me to again be here this Monday evening to co-host this show with Marcia Weeks. And I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to present a number of things that we are presenting to be a part of a great team. Of course, Marcia, Caswell Franklin, and Glyne Murray. I am so happy to be a part of a team, including both of them. Just today, I spoke with someone about a matter to do with the non-registration of political parties in Barbados, and I indicated to them concerning both of the parties, and I said to them both, Mr. Franklin and Mr. Murray, confirmed the position that I took. And they said, well, if those guys confirm it, well, then it is so. And so this evening, I'm really pleased to be here again with you. And again, I say good evening to the loyal opposition. Good evening to you, Queen Bee. Thank you for confirming you're hearing me loud and clear. Good night, ND. Jack, hi to you as well. Owen Hines. I think I saw my friend from Philadelphia, Peter King. Captain, good evening to you as well. To Michael here with Lucinda Aline and Marvin Aline. Yes, I greet them too. Sylvia Rock, Paulette Hurdle, Sandra Brewster, Robert M.H., Jermaine 123A. Really great to have you, Sir Alfred Benjamin. I really pray I get a chance to meet you, Sir Alfred. From Brooklyn, New York. And if I'm ever coming to New York, you'll be sure to know. I'll make sure that Marcia gives me your contact and I'll look you up. Diane Husbands, Peter King, James Harden. Good evening, Junie Rock and Born Again at 48. Victorious Queen. Yes, absolutely. Good evening to the loyal opposition, FX Trading, Beamy. And I got to meet so many of you just on Saturday. I can't always connect the names and the faces. Sometimes I have to call a name a lot of times in order to even remember it. But it's a real pleasure to meet every one of you, even if I don't remember your name. All right, a real pleasure. And I'm going to try hard to remember your name. Queen Bee, Loyal Daughter 66, good evening to you as well. CG, Cecilia Miller, good evening to you. Each one of you, you are so important to us. We take the time to call you here. I hope you don't mind us doing. Yes, Janetha Calendar, I am in red tonight. Yes. Teroni Hall, good evening to you as well. Pauline Maynard, Sean Yard, Judith Ann Clark. Thank you for just confirming that as well. Curran Williams, good evening to you. Really a pleasure to be with you this evening. A real honor. And I really mean it. I really mean it. I thank God for allowing me the opportunity to share with Caswell and Glyne and Kimar and Maxine and Rose and all of those who come on board with us, and our guests from Guyana and our guests from Trinidad, our guests from the Bahamas. We've had so many different people on And we want to particularly thank them for making themselves available. We'll have a couple of guests on tonight that you will not want to miss. So share, share, share. And I'm not just doing that to copy Marcia, because you know Marcia is just unique at what she does. And I will never be able to even come close to how wonderful she starts and introduces the show. But I try. Okay. Julie Gills, great to have you as well. Beverly Prescott, Jefferson Sobers, good night to you. Marian Griffith, blessed night to you as well. Wendy Ford Griffith, good night to you as well. And Teroni Hall, I really appreciate you being here. Sean, of course, you know I have to, just let me look back through this. Right. I was just looking for you, Marcia, to make sure you were on here, because I need you to make sure that you keep my feet to the fire for that national anthem. All right. So good evening to you as well. And I really mean that. I appreciate it, because, you know, sometimes you can get on a roll and you really, you know, get going, and you forget sometimes, oh my goodness, you know, we haven't played the national anthem. But we're going to make sure we cover that this evening. And not only that, I want to take a few minutes at the beginning of the program, once we've done the national anthem, to take a look at the national pledge. And I want to take a look at that pledge for a reason, because I believe that that pledge is meant for all Barbadians. I really believe that. And I believe that if we make that pledge, we have an obligation to the pledge that we have. And I will go through that pledge with you in a few minutes, and you can determine for yourself whether our politicians honor the pledge or not. I'm not going to tell you, or at least I'll try not to tell you whether they do or not. But when we look at that pledge, you are going to determine for yourself whether those people who are political leaders in our country, and I'm speaking from both camps, or any camp, because of course we've had some additional small minority parties. We've had some smaller parties join as well, and into the political fray. But I am committed as a Barbadian to my country. I'm committed to my country. Everywhere I have gone, I have represented Barbados in my over 30 to 40 years of Christian ministry throughout the Caribbean, into the United States, Canada, and South America. I have stood proudly as a Barbadian, and I performed, ministered, sung, preached, led conferences, spoken in conferences in California and Canada, and I've done so as a Barbadian. And I am very proud to be a Barbadian. I really am. I'm not embarrassed to be a Bajan, a Barbadian, a whatever, whatever you want to call it. I am very, very proud to be a Barbadian, and to represent my country in whatever capacity I have. And I make it very, very clear wherever I go and whatever I'm doing, that I am a Bajan. I'm a Barbadian. That's where God birthed me. He birthed me in Barbados. He didn't birth me in Trinidad. He didn't birth me in Jamaica. Thank God for those countries, and for people who have traveled from those countries and come here to Barbados, and who have spent years. My wife, St. Lucian originally, and she moved here at a very, very early age, and she carries a Barbados passport right now. She, I believe she also still has her St. Lucian passport. I think she has to renew it. But she is very proud to be a Barbadian, and she supports us, not because she's my wife. She supports us because she knows that what we are saying is true. She knows that we are speaking the truth, and that we are contending for righteousness and justice as the people of Barbados, as the citizens of Barbados. I'm going to take a little sip of my coffee, all right? So, yeah, they all learned the pledge, Janitha, all learned the pledge, but they seem to have forgotten it. I even wonder if sometimes they remember the oath that they took at the president's house. And you get in Parliament, and I'm sick and tired of all the theatrics and foolishness and name calling and disingenuous innuendos that are spoken in the House of Assembly. I am tired of it. It is time that we lift the level of presentation in the House of Assembly and give our young people something to aim at. in terms of representing our country. Let them see a degree of decorum, a degree of dignity, a degree of integrity in our House of Assembly, in Parliament, and in Senate. What we're seeing now doesn't represent anything that I have just said. And I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. I know some of them personally, and I am very disappointed in how they are going along with everything in this country and not standing up and opening their mouths and speaking out and defending the rights of people in our country. And I make no two bones about it. I have to defend the truth. I have to stand for the truth. And if the members of the Barbados Labour Party are standing in the place of truth, you're standing with me. If the members of the Democratic Labour Party are going to be standing in truth, then they're standing with me. Okay, Captain, I'll try, but it's not strong. Okay, well, it's strong because it's coffee, but that's as strong as I go. Thank you, Captain. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Thank you. I just love this family. You know, I really, really, really do. Y'all are so funny. Y'all are so funny. Well, we're up to 393 people. And I may, Marcy, I may shoot off. I may shoot off. I may shoot off a little earlier. I may shoot off a little earlier with that national anthem because I want to make sure I redeem the time this evening. And I'll touch a little bit on the cybercrime bill if I get the chance. But of course, we have a number of people coming on. I'm sure they're going to be touching on it in one way or the other. And again, thank you for all of you who joined us on that march on Saturday. We had a different routing, a routing that I will tell you has been designed, not anything to do with the Barbados Police Service, a routing that has been designed to keep us out of the forefront of the people who are coming into the country for the World Cup 2024. The government does not want them to see protests and marches against them and against their policies when the visitors are in the country. But you know what? They're going to hear anyhow. They're going to see anyhow. And they're going to ask questions anyhow. And I know that the press, the international press, is going to inevitably get wind of it because I hope we march every single weekend that the World Cup 2024 is in Barbados. And I'm going to commit myself to be a part of every single one of those marches so that we present to the people the truth. You know, we anyhow, before I get into anything else, I know Dave is in the house with me. And Dave, I'm just going to ask you to prep that national anthem in about 30 seconds. I'm going to be asking you to play. And we are going to stand to attention. We are going to respect our national anthem. We are going to respect our flag. And we are going to come back and talk a little bit about that pledge. All right. So, Dave, please play that national anthem for us as proud Barbadians. Thank you so much.
Right.
Amen, amen, amen. What a tremendous anthem. I listen so carefully every time it is played to the words. And I must say that never has it meant more to me in my life as it does now. And I've listened, that first verse, in plenty and in time of need, when this fair land was young, our brave forefathers sowed the seed from which our pride is sprung, a pride that makes no wanton boast of what it has withstood, that binds our hearts from coast to coast, the pride of nationhood. It doesn't matter, Democratic Labour Party supporter or Barbados Labour Party supporter. What should be binding our hearts together is not a political party, but what should be binding our hearts together is our country. Our country should be paramount, foremost, at the highest level of our consideration as people in this country, way above and beyond any political party. And if a political party does not align itself strategically and immediately and directly in line with our country, then we should tell that political party, thank you for your effort, but we have chosen to go a different direction. I am very proud of our country. And I want to take a look, as I was preparing for this evening, I made a decision to take a look at our national pledge. And I want to go through that national pledge with you, if you permit me to do so. And I'm going to share my screen with you because I want you to see what the national pledge says. And I just want to confirm that you are seeing that national pledge on the screen very clearly. And I'm going to try to make sure it's the only thing that you see on the screen. Take my image out. That's not important. But here's the national pledge of Barbados, and I want to go through it with you. Take a look at that. Aren't you proud of that flag? Look at the flag, blue and gold with the broken trident. I am so proud that here we have something that represents our country, a sovereign symbol that identifies Barbados as a sovereign nation. And I want to look now at the national pledge, and I just want to go through a little bit of the history of the national pledge. Some of us may have forgotten, and for that matter, some of us may never have really considered it or even followed it or even know the history of it. But here's the pledge of our country. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. That is a pledge that is not just for the ordinary person on the street or the ordinary citizen. That is a pledge for every single Barbadian national, whether you're sitting in the House of Assembly or not, whether you're sitting in Senate or not, regardless of your position, whether you be in the judiciary, no matter what position you hold, if you're in the Barbados Police Service, if you're in the educational department, if you're a minister, if you're a senator, if you're the prime minister, no matter who you are, your pledge of allegiance is to your country and to your flag, not to your political party. And I want to make this very, 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 very clear. I want it to be very, 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 very clear. I want politicians to hear me this evening and hear me well. Your pledge is to this national flag, to defend, and to this country, to defend and uphold, and defend their honor, not the honor of your political party, your country, and your flag. And by your living in the Senate and in the Parliament, where you shouldn't be telling lies, where you shouldn't be deceiving people, where you should be listening to the citizens of your country, where you should not treat them with disrespect, as some of us witnessed during the during the Joint Select Committee. We saw some aspects that I consider disrespectful, and you again heard matters taken from that Joint Select Committee in the Senate into the House of Assembly. And these are things that should not be done. The National Pledge was written by Mr. Lester Vaughan, a former teacher and education officer of primary schools. He started his career as a political teacher. You can go in to the search and you find it. He taught at a number of primary schools in the parish of St. Andrew. He was trained at the Royal Train Institute, the forerunner of Urdston College. He emigrated to St. Lucia, continued his career there as a teacher until 1954, where he entered Tuskegee Institute of Alabama, where he pursued a course in primary education, returned to St. Lucia in 1952, served there until 1954, returned home to Barbados. The choice of the National Pledge was announced on the 2nd of April, 1973, by the Honorable Erskine Sandiford, who was then the Minister of Education, Youth Affairs, Community Development, and Sports. And in that competition, which attracted 167 entrants, Mr. Vaughan's composition was chosen as the National Pledge. The judges of that competition were Mrs. Enid Lynch, Miss Doreen Mayers, Mr. Charlie Best, Mr. John Wickham, Mr. A.N. Ford, Mr. H.A. Vaughan, chairman of the committee. And Mr. Vaughan died on the 16th of September, 2003, at the age of 92. Now, I am told that this show is a show that helps to educate us as people. And so I felt to take a few moments this evening to take a look at this National Pledge, because it's that National Pledge that every single member of Parliament should be following. You should not be following your political parties. You should not be, you scare me there, Dave. You should not be following your political philosophy. If there's a philosophy you should be following, it is the philosophy of Barbados. That is what you pledged in your oath to defend the interests and the people of this country. And you need to show the people that's what you're doing. Instead of that, what we have is leadership that, as I mentioned on Saturday, is globe-trotting all over the world, advancing the cause of our European Union neo-colonial masters, rather than joining arm in arm with our African ancestors, such as in Burkina Faso and in Sierra Leone and in Senegal and a couple of other countries. Instead of joining arm in arm and asking those neo-colonial masters to please take leave. Please take leave. We have been under your slave control for long enough. In 1966, we initially broke that, and we are supposed to have comprehensively broken it when we became a republic. We were supposed to have comprehensively broken it, but we can see, actions speak louder than words. And so we can see that the interest that is being promoted by our government is not in the interest of the people or the connection to the ancestry of our country, which is rooted in Africa, but we can see them advancing the cause of the European Union, the climate change aspects of the European Union. We can see them advancing the cause of the Cybercrime Bill of the United Nations, and we can see them advancing child protection, all of these advancing under the guise, or should I say, all of this has hidden within it the LGBTQ2 plus agenda. And I am being very clear on this, very, very clear. And so I want to challenge our members of Parliament, those who have any conscience left, to make sure that you represent the cause of the people of Barbados. I challenge you this evening to dare to stand up for what is right, because if you don't, you're going to fall for anything. There's one thing I've learned as a Christian minister, and that is a verse that I've never forgotten. If the foundations be destroyed, what will the righteous do? And what we are seeing is a breach in the foundations of our country. We are seeing a breach of the borders, the security, the culture of our country. Metaphorically speaking, I am not saying that we have any invaders. I'm not saying that we have any terrorists in the country. And I'm not promoting anything in terms of violence or otherwise. I would not dare to do that, even as a normal citizen. But I am saying that as Barbadians, our initial commitment is to our country and to our flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. Now, I mentioned, and I'm waiting for some of my, at least for Caswell to join me, and while I'm waiting for Caswell to do that, I know, Marcia, it's a lot more than a breach. And incidentally, I know some of you may be persons of Christian faith. You may be persons of other faiths. I am so thrilled to be joining arm in arm with the dear me. Well, it'll come back to me. I'm happy to be Rastafari. That's it. The Rastafari community holding Lumumba and my other brother as well, holding their arms to fight for the rights of the people in our country. All right, and I'm proud to be able to do that. Our faiths are a bit different in terms of some of the things we believe, but the important thing is that we are Barbadians. We are fighting for the development of our country. We are fighting for the freedoms of our country, the right for anybody to worship whoever they want. That's a freedom and a right. God himself gives you that right. Nobody can force you to or not to. You have a freedom of choice. And that's what this cybercrime bill threatens. It threatens our freedoms and our liberties. For anybody to be foolish enough to tell you that there's a difference between freedom of expression and freedom of speech suggests to me that the person is either unintelligent or uninformed. And as a result of that, I don't want to pay attention to anyone who would dare to suggest that there is a difference, because it is clear to any individual that the freedom of speech is a part of the freedom of expression. However, when one takes a look at this cybercrime bill, what we see is clearly identified is that if you speak, and I want to read it carefully, under section 19, headed malicious communications, a person who intentionally or recklessly uses a computer system to publish, broadcast, or transmit computer data that intimidates a person or threatens to use violence towards a person or a member of his family, which we would never endorse, to damage the property of a person or the property of his family. Now, is that property real property or representative property, if you get what I mean? Because there's a reason people refer to real estate, because there's some estate that is not real. There's some that is metaphorical. There's that type of expression. You would be guilty of an offense and liable to summary conviction, to a fine of $70,000 or to an imprisonment for a term of 7 years or both. So imagine I say something that intimidates another on the internet, and you have the right to go to the police, indicate to them that I've intimidated you and have me arrested, as happened in Guyana about a week ago, where a man who is hosting a call-in program, somebody calls in and threatens the lives of the leadership of Guyana, and rather than asking the telecommunications company to try to trace that call, they arrest the man who is the host of the show. Now, what ludicrous ignorance can we really see? What is happening in the mentality, the mind, the thinking of these leaders that are these people that call themselves leaders? All right. And Carson Cadogan, I agree with you that I am going to say this. If I am a part of any new government in any way, shape, or form, I am going to commit myself to ensure that the cybercrime bill, if it is passed, is repealed on us going into office. It is revoked, and we will come back. We will put something in place that will protect the people of Barbados, their bank accounts, the integrity of our country, the integrity of persons, private information, that will protect our children from cyberbullying and from pedophiles, and not differently attractive people. That is the foolishness. And of course, Queen Bee, there was a young man who made that statement, and not a member of the Barbados Labour Party government has distanced themselves from that statement that he made. And I am telling you, if I have anything to do with it, There are two bills that I am going to focus on, the Child Protection Bill and the Cybercrime Bill. And if I have any input into it, both will be revoked and repealed. And we will go back to the drawing board again and provide something, create something that is conducive and supportive and representative of the culture, people, and population of Barbados. Not the United States, not Italy, not Spain, not the UK, not the European Union, but Barbados. Not Guyana, not Trinidad, not Jamaica, but Barbados. And I commit myself to that. I'm telling you that now. I don't know what the future will hold for me. I don't know where God will lead me into and what he will guide me into. But if I come into that place where I am asked to fulfill a responsibility in any way, shape, or form, I give you my solemn promise. You remember that? Solemn promise. I don't have to try to remember the words that I speak because they are rooted in my spirit. They're rooted in my commitment. They are rooted in the genuineness of my commitment, first of all, to God, and secondly, to my family, and thirdly, to my country. Okay, that's my process. God first, family second. Nothing comes before family. And I tell you now, let nothing come before your family. Nothing. I made that mistake in the past years, and I'm saying to you, your family is the most important thing that you have upon the planet. That's where God put you. God put you in the family. He put you in the family that you're in. It may not be perfect. It may have even abused you, and I don't know what else. But I am telling you, God placed you in that family. Well, to be honest with you, Anika, I don't know. There are one or two others that do join me from time to time in the marches. I've seen a couple of them on the marches. I can't speak for them. But what I will say is don't give up praying for them. Pray that there's a little verse in the scripture that says the devil, Satan, has blinded the eyes of the unbeliever so that they cannot see and believe. And I honestly feel, and I'm being very sincere with you, I honestly feel that the root of the issues in our country lies in the realm of the spirit. I'm not saying that because I'm a reverend. I'm saying that because, number one, I'm a Christian. I know where the initial issues reside in the spirit realm, and it makes itself manifest in the physical realm. So a lot of what you see happening with bills and so forth, I am putting it to you that those are the inevitable manifestations of a breach in the belief system of this country. And as a Christian, we are doing our part to shut it down and to recover it. And just this morning, someone in a group I was in spoke about correcting. We are going to correct all that has been put wrong. Remember what the national anthem says: in plenty and in time of need, when this fair land was young, our brave forefathers sowed the seed from which our pride is sprung, a pride that makes no wanton boast of what it has withstood, that binds our hearts from coast to coast, the pride of nationhood. We loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own, not the BLP or DLPs. I had to tell Prime Minister Arthur in a presentation I did during one of the conferences for the BLP in which I spoke that Barbados does not belong to the DLP. Barbados does not belong to the BLP. The last scripture I saw is the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the people and all that dwell therein. And if he gives you an opportunity to govern, you better govern well, because you will have to answer to him at some point. And trust me, he is not as nice as the electorate of Barbados. I can assure you of that. And if it is not for his grace and mercy, you are going to find yourself on the receiving end of a judgment from him that you are not going to be happy with. I've already said that God does not need an election to remove this government from office. I have already said that. Remember, he is the man he is the individual. He is the entity, however you want to refer to it. I refer to him as a daddy. But he is the person who has breathed the life into us. And he is the one who has the right to take it. And when you step out of line, you're walking on some fine rope. When you start to abuse the people that he has created, you're walking a fine line. And if you think it's only Christians that he protects, you're sadly mistaken. You're sadly mistaken. He has an obligation to protect his creation. And trust me, the one thing I have not ever seen in my Bible is that God has given anybody the right and dominion over another human being. When I read, I see we have dominion over all kinds of things except another human being. You don't have dominion over them. Okay, so we get this clear. So government, pull up your socks and get things right, because I can assure you there is a little verse that says, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, they groan. So you can tell from the expressions of the people who is ruling. And as a loyal opposition, you can indicate who you think is ruling on the basis of the people. Are they groaning? It's the wicked who are ruling. Are they rejoicing? It's the righteous who are ruling. Okay? And these are not, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to convert nobody. I'm just telling you the facts. These are the facts. A government is given the opportunity to lead its people. God gives them that opportunity. And if they don't do what should be right, sooner or later, he is going to call in on your responsibility and accountability. And I'm telling you, he does not need a general election to remove any prime minister or any government. I guarantee you that. All right? But keep in mind, just in case the election is called, and I suspect I'm going to let a cat out of the bag. I don't know if Caswell will agree with me when he comes on, but it would not surprise me one bit if it's not shortly after the World Cup 2024 is concluded that we hear rumblings of an election. And I want to caution the government. Remember the Titanic. Remember the Titanic. Remember the Titanic. Remember that the captain thought there was only a little iceberg. What he did not quite grasp and understand was that what you were seeing was only 1/10 of what really existed. So I am going to issue a stern warning to government. Don't fool yourself because you see 200 or 300 people marching. Those 200 and 300 people represent thousands who are dissatisfied with your performance. And if you call an election, I guarantee you, you will be removed from office. It is a funny thing how the good Lord can set confusion in your camp. And if there's one thing I am genuinely praying about, is that confusion be in your camp. Because there are some people in there who know the right thing to do, but they're not doing it. Yeah, Peter, that's a fact, you know. I was from young. I was a member of the BLP, and so was Caswell, and so was Glenn. Glenn Murray was a personal assistant to several prime ministers. But I can tell you, the number of people that I spoke with on Saturday who were formerly supportive of the BLP are no longer supporting the BLP because they call it now the Party of Mia Mottley, not the Barbados Labour Party. And I can tell you, you're gone. And as I said before, I dare you, call an election if you got the guts to do it. Call it. Look, Caswell is in the room. I want Caswell to come in quick. Caswell, I can see you back there. The people can't see you yet, but you can give me a thumbs up and let me know if you are ready to come in, and I will add you to the stage because I know that the people are always anxious to hear you and to see you. So, loyal opposition, let us welcome General Caswell Franklin. Caswell, welcome to the show tonight. Again, it's my privilege, my honor and pleasure to share it with you this evening. Good evening to you, my friend. God bless you.
Good night, Freddie. Thanks for having me. And good night to everyone who's watching and listening. And also, we all be very thankful for Marcia, who has put this show in place so that we can let our views be heard, because it isn't easy, and that is why the government now wants to silence it, because it is becoming the thing to do on the evenings. I see so many people going to the supermarket. I went to the supermarket this evening to pick up a couple of items, And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I got in the supermarket and all the way through, people were coming at me and telling me they listen to the show, they watch
Yes,
the show, sometimes
yes,
they thank you. And this that goes on and on and on
yes,
because they believe that we are doing a good thing. The only
yes,
body who are
yes.
not doing a good thing, and let me tell you something, this all of a sudden, Bridgetown Market in Broad Street, that
Oh
had one
Lord.
option. That had
Oh,
one thing, and that was to make sure that we don't walk through Broad Street.
correct, correct. You're right.
I don't care what anybody else says. This it was not
You're
part of
right.
the planning. It was not part of anything. All it was is that our marches were going through Broad Street. I think what we did, we gave them advance notice. We let them know what we were doing, and they blocked us off, and they put us to march to build around buildings.
Yep, yep.
But
That's exactly what they did,
they did exactly that. You know, they know
and
what
it
they
was
were doing.
deliberate.
Absolutely, I believe with all my heart. But the truth will out. You
But
you can be mighty for a time.
but you know, Caswell, what I also discovered, because a couple of young people I know very well who are in their own business, do you know that the government is telling them that they are going to have to acquire, you know, the card machines for swiping the cards?
Yes.
And do you know that there is only, I think there's only one bank they're talking about to do that? And do you know that they don't have an account at that bank? And do you know they will have to open up an account at that bank? And of course, Caswell, you know all that is involved to open up an account so that they can get a card machine to use. And these are small business people. And I don't know if you know what the cost is in
Yes,
terms
I
of one
do.
of those
That is
machines.
why I do not have one of those machines for Unity Workers Union, because my numbers are small and the amount of people who come to want them, even though they might be significant for me, they're not significant enough for the bank, and the bank makes more money out of this venture than me. So that's
Yes,
one reason
yes.
why you see I don't have that facility available to my members, because it is quite expensive for small people. But
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
see, what these people don't realize is that you have people who sell fish, or people who sell breadfruits, mangoes, pears, cherries, you name it, cassava, but not them dealing with no swipe nothing. You know, these people are too intent on following what the people out there are setting up for us to do. And
Mm-hmm.
before you say, well, look, no, we have not reached that stage. We are not ready for that yet. They're trying to force people into the will of the people outside. You know,
And
and
we're
unfortunately,
seeing that every day,
yeah, yeah,
Caswell.
yeah.
We're seeing that every day.
This year, they told you if you claim your income tax refund, you have options. You can get a check, or you can get a deposit to your bank or credit union. But when you choose the option of the check, the screen went blank. You gotta start over again. Only time it went through is when you agreed that you wanted deposit to your bank account or credit union account. These people are forcing you. You know, and then they'll say, "Oh no, there's no force. Everybody got the free will." But when you have your will and your will is thwarted, like when they had these jobs and they tell people, no, they're not compulsory, they're not mandatory. But then they're going to tell the employers, don't let them come in your place if they don't have the job. And many people, out of fear of losing their job, because some did, because Hill Mill and San Juan people. You remember? I'm not here, Freddie.
Think I'm muted. Yeah, I remember Caswell, because a young man who I know very well, his sister called me. He worked with with Hill, sorry, and he was sent home because he refused to take the job. And he called, and I told him what I felt he needed to do. And of course, you have mentioned about the what's the government agency again that you talk about?
Labor Department.
Labor Department. Thank you. I advised him to go there and report what was going on, and he did. And I think it was amicably resolved after a while. But you're absolutely correct. And you know, Caswell, we are seeing a lot now coming out. I don't know if you've been watching the news in the United States. You're seeing the Supreme Court now. I read an article just today where the Supreme Court is going after Dr. Fauci, and where a number of the statements to do with him and others within the NIH and the CDC are being pursued now. A lot of misinformation and disinformation concerning the jabs, and we are beginning to see the whole thing unraveling.
Well, it gets even worse because a court in Germany,
yes,
that the jabs were 97%.
Whoa! Not the jabs. Not the jabs, Caswell. The PR test, the PCR test.
Yeah, PCR test, yeah.
The PCR tests were 97% inaccurate.
Unreliable.
Yes. And we were forced here and told that we had to take the PCR test.
As a matter of fact, they are still making you take these tests if you are a prisoner and you have to go to court. And only last week, one prisoner demanded a second test because his test was positive. And he said, no, I can't get the COVID. And he insisted on another test. He got it. It was negative. Mind you, the prisoner is still using the old expired test anyhow. You know, and people, and so you can't go to court to get bail. You can't go to court to get anything if you don't take the test. They're still doing it. They're still experimenting on the prisoners in Barbados. That is something absolutely wrong. 97%.
You're absolutely correct, Caswell.
97% ineffective.
Yes. And if I can find it before you're finished, I will put it in the chat so that persons can go, because sometimes when we say things, people talk a lot of foolishness. Well, I mean, none of our loyal opposition do this, but there's some who talk a lot of nonsense about information.
I can forward it to you.
But thank you so much. Thank you. So a lot of things are coming to light, Caswell, even with regards to the Trident ID. You remember we were inevitably told it's going to be a choice, but now if your payments are going to be made directly to your account, and you're going to have to get this national ID in order to make that process, they say, secure, as if your bank card is not good enough to secure your account. I wasn't aware of the fact that an ID card would secure my bank account. I thought it was my bank account that would be secure, my bank that would be secure, and my credit or debit card that would be secure.
But unfortunately, we have bought on, not we, the government has bought on to this nonsense. They're here to govern, not to imitate what's happening outside the world. I sent it to you, Freddie.
Okay, thank you.
So and what is happening, we don't have any ideas. This government does not have any ideas of its own. So they go and they borrow or adopt people's positions, and then I didn't get the Grant Adams Award. Sorry, I got the Chairman's Award some years ago. That body wasn't. We have BLP people here, but they don't remember the history. Anyhow, this government continues to show its ineptness. And you cannot be this bad and continue all the time. Something has to give, because too many people are suffering. What's happening? They think that throwing people's money to get them elected again. Look what they did in Oystins. They went up there and they trying to get rid of Ralph. And they want to make the people of Oystins happy. So they refurbish the bear gardens and make a lot of red tanks.
My goodness.
So so when you see red, you see BLP. So it's compliments to the BLP. But government money,
Mm-hmm.
It is happening all the time. Only today someone called me and told me, they're just taking care of their friends. That somebody who used to be a DJ is now one of the people consultants with the Gabians. Whether your father will be rolling in his grave now if you heard that. So some DJ guy that know he can go and tell people to build Gabians because he got political connections.
I tell you.
And the thing is, if he designed them, they're gonna wash away, These things are done by experts. And I'm telling you, the experts are not fellows who work at university or any other university. These are fellows who are trained and know how to do this stuff. Because they grew up under craftsmen and they learn the craft. Unfortunately, but tonight, though, I think I will be a bit dry tonight, because I'm going to be speaking to civil servants. And civil servants are owed millions of dollars, because going back from 2007, when the then chief personnel officer sent out a circular. I was able to get my hands on it. January 11, 2007, restricting this amount of sick leave that people can get. Unfortunately, everything that she said in this circular is contrary to the law. And they have been using this to, I can only say, punish public officers for getting ill. And what is really troubling is that a lot of public officers get ill because of the conditions under which they work. Now let me go and tell you what I'm talking about. Temporary officers in the public service are entitled to 14 sick days. The general orders give that, but it also said that you will get your full salary, but then you have to turn in the money you get from national insurance. Now, what these people have done is to say, no, we are not paying you after 14 days. So you will only get your national insurance contributions. So that conflicts with the general orders. The general orders say, this is how you must do it. And I will source, I can point to the particular general order if you want me to, and I will. But then they go on. Appointed officers are eligible for 21 days. And then General Order 524.1 limits it to another year of sick leave. That year of sick leave coincides with the national insurance year, because public appointed government officers don't get national insurance benefits. So the government didn't know what they were doing. So they did not charge you on your contributions any money to pay for sickness benefit, because the government was paying you. The general orders point out that at General Order 516.1 to 522, that deals with sick leave. But what the chief personnel officer did, if you go over your year sick leave, because some people take longer to recover, the general orders say that they are supposed to continue if they're going to let you continue your service, because it might make sense rather than give you a pension at that point in time, because if they send you home at that point in time, you're pensionable. And if you have 10 years or more, you get a pension. If you have 10 years or more and less than 20, they credit you with 20 years service. So it does not make sense for the government to send you home, because they're going to start paying you pension from very early. So what should happen is to give you a little bit more time to recover. And then if you don't recover, you find they can't recover, well, so be it. What these people have been doing is to give people extension of sick leave on half pay in accordance with this directive, and then extension of sick leave on no pay. Now, first, let me stop this no pay thing. If you do not pay a person a salary, that is dismissal. It is called constructive dismissal. I talked about that last night. Now, if you do not pay a person their salary, you have dismissed them. But the chief personnel officer cannot dismiss any appointed public officer. The Constitution provides a way to dismiss public officers. And the only person who can dismiss a public officer is the president. So if the chief personnel officer does anything that amounts to dismissal, that is unconstitutional. So you got to pay people. But they have been giving people sick leave, extension of sick leave on no pay. Now, look there. You are sick. No national insurance. And they're going to give you no pay. What are you expected to do? Especially in a situation where you get hurt on the job. Imagine a policeman going on the road chasing after somebody and the vehicle turn over. And he's out for a while. Can't walk, can't do much of anything. And then you are saying to me, I'm going to cut his benefit, I'm going to cut his salary. He was doing his job. So all of these things, and let's say a guy, his situation, he might be young, recently started a family, have some small children and a mortgage, and you're going to cut his salary. What is he going to do? Now, you are covered for invalidity benefits for national insurance or disablement benefits from national insurance. There's different. If you get hurt on the job, it's disablement benefits. But we got a problem. We got a racket going on with some doctors in Barbados right now, because I have seen instances where the public service send you to a doctor, and the doctor said you are unfit to work. Can't work. Then the national insurance sends you to the same doctor, and then the doctor writes a report to the national insurance and says that you can work. So you're between a rock and a hard place. I have appealed a case like that, a couple of cases like that, and nobody wants to touch it because this doctor is a fraud. He has said to the people, oh, in public service, he can't work. And one of them is a policeman. He said, he can't work. He's not fit to work.
Oh, my
But then
goodness.
he does national insurance. The same doctor, the same man. You know, that he's fit to work. Mind you, I suspect that he's overworked. He got too much work to do because he's very mean. You know, if you, for instance, he gives you less than 30%, you don't get a pension or a disablement benefit. So a lot of people they give 30% too, and the people in insurance like that because they don't want to pay out the money. So they keep sending people to him, and they're getting the result that they want. This man, over the years, have been hurting so many public officers or so many people that national insurance refer to him. You know, in my own case, the insurance sent me the message. I ran back in my car, and he says from old age. I was bending over and touching the floor, palm of my hand. Next week, I could only get as far as my knees. He says old age. I get old overnight. That is what he does. He works for the insurance company or for the whoever sends him, rather than give an honest opinion. And there are too many like that. I have another case with an officer who was injured on the job. A forklift, fellow come with a forklift and pin him onto the wall, mash him up. He can't do much. He's ever tall. One doctor says he's 100% disabled. Can't work again. Will never be able to work again. But the other doctors are saying he's 30%. 30% he's going to get a meager pension. Can't live on it. We got too much of this racket going on. And while this is happening, public officers and other people are suffering. But tonight I'm dealing with public officers. Now let me source the information that I'm giving you. The general orders for people who, I think you should take out your pens, because there are a lot of people out there and government order them millions.
I got my pen out. Out.
General Order 516, 5.16.1.
General orders of what?
The General Orders of Public Service. These are the orders made, General Orders for the Public Service of Barbados.
518?
516.
516. Okay.
5.16.1.
Yeah, 5.16.1. Okay.
That is where sick leave starts. And it says, so heads of department may grant to officers of their departments the sick leave on full pay, for which they are eligible as specified in the first schedule to this chapter. Each application for sick leave or extension of such leave shall be supported by medical certificate. All right, they send you to the first schedule. And the first schedule tells you 21 days for appointed people, 14 for temporary. Then it says here, and this was done with a SI, Statute Instrument 1977, number 1971, number 77. During any period of illness resulting from injury caused by an accident arising in the course of officers or employees' employment, or from a prescribed disease as defined by the National Insurance and Social Security Employment Injury Prescribed Diseases Regulation 971, the salary of the officer shall be reduced by the full amount of the injury or disablement benefit payable under the National Insurance. So if you get her that work, you get your full salary. And if you get money from National Insurance, you're going to pay that back in. That's what it says for injury. Right? But that's not what they're doing. Then it go, that is 5.16.2. Sick leave to temporary officers 5.18.18.1. Heads of department may grant to officers holding temporary appointments in their department sick leave on full pay for a period not exceeding 14 days in any year, provided that during a period of such leave with pay, the officer holding the temporary appointment shall be reduced by the full amount of the National Insurance sickness benefit. Right? So it says at no time will you get more than your normal salary. So you get your full salary from government, and then you have to get back government thing. They are not doing that. They're restricting people to the 66 and 2/3% of your salary. Mind you, people are not getting more than 100%. No. So when you reduce a fellow who is sick, who are going to pay doctor bills and buy medication, and you are putting them out to no survive on 66 and 2/3%.
Wow.
Right? Then now this is the kicker. They tell you, and I want officers to write this down. Write this one down. 5.19.1. Absence on account of illness in excess of the period stated in the first schedule shall be deducted from the vacation leave of an officer. But in the case of serious illness of an officer, if the duration of such illness exceeds the period stated in the said schedule, that is the 14 or the 21 days, the chief personnel officer may, in accordance with General Orders 524.1 to 524.3, grant extensions of the period of sick leave. It tells you that the chief personnel officer can grant you sick leave in accordance with 524.1 to 524.3. This circular, on the other hand, the one that I was just telling you about that came out in 2007, that is saying to the people, now listen to what the chief personnel officer, Juan Gail Atkins, wrote back then. She said, appointed officers are eligible for 21 days sick leave on full pay per calendar year. General Order 524.1 limit the maximum amount of extension of sick leave with full pay granted to an appointed officer to 1 year. Additionally, in accordance with General Order 525.5, you hear that? She's saying 525.5, appointed officers may be granted extensions of sick leave on half pay for not more than 18 months. But the general orders don't tell you got to deal with it between 524.1 and 524.3. She goes to 525.5. 525.5 does not deal with sick leave at all. Has nothing to do with sick leave. It has, suppose you have a problem and you want to travel or you want to do something, you get horny and say, no, home, house, you can't come out. Something like that. You know, serious indisposition or something. I just want you to be. You can ask for no pay leave, and that is what, or half pay leave. That is what 525.5 is dealing with. But she is treating that as though it is dealing with sick leave, and as a result, hundreds of officers, and half of the people at the prison have to be paying back money to the treasury that they do not owe.
Well, Kaz, I hate to interrupt you, but you see who just came on board?
Yes, I saw.
You saw who just came on board. So let me pause you for a minute. As a matter of fact, you know what? I don't know why we don't set up a special session for you, because I can tell you something. You have so much to teach. You can't get it done in the 20 minutes or half an hour. There's so much information you possess. But let me welcome the lady of the show. And I know you don't mind. If it was me, you were giving it. You know you won't be doing. I know, but I know. But that smile knocks us out, right? I mean, we knocked out on that smile. All right. So, Marcia, welcome, welcome.
I don't know why we keep interrupting Caswell when we come on. I was in
I don't know.
I was listening, you know, and listening to him. But you know, it's always.
It's the smile, Marcia. It's the smile.
One of a kind, Freddie. One of a kind.
I am telling you, absolutely.
Well, you know, I'm seeing Colin Spencer there, and yes. We will have to beg him 5 minutes. I don't know if he's at a rehearsal, so to give Caswell 5 minutes and see if we can put anything on the end. So Caswell can finish up. You know, I don't want to interrupt Mr. Franklin too much.
No, I'm going to cut it short now, because I think I have created enough interest for people to start checking out what they're doing. Because I'm telling you, one officer came to my office and they're telling her she has to pay back $50,000 in overdrawn salary, because they did not apply the rules as the rules say you must apply them. Now, this Public Service Act provides that the general orders, sorry about that, subject to subsection 3, the general orders are from the 31st of December 2007, deemed to have been made under subsection 1, and shall remain in force until revoked by an instrument in writing by the minister under this act. The general orders that would have existed before, they took them into the new regime in 2007. So even before this, the general orders will tell you, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. But they come and decided that they're going, because government wants to cut back on the amount of money that they're spending.
Right.
So we have willing public officers who are interested only in doing the government's bidding, not taking care of the people who they're supposed to be paid to take care of. They feel that their job is to nickel and dime public officers into poverty. And I know of a lady now who has a medical condition, and she is waiting on her money, but can't get it, and is deteriorating. What these people need to do is to follow the law. There is no such thing in the public service of Barbados. I don't know if there's any public service anywhere else, but the public service of Barbados has no rule that allows for extension of sick leave on half pay or extension of sick leave on no pay. It just does not exist in law. It exists because the politicians wanted to ease back on paying all that money when people are sick. Well, if people are sick, what you do? Fix the buildings. A lot of public officers are sick because the buildings they're in. You know how much sinus problems you got. And I tell you, I talk about prison. At the prison, the place ain't get paid yet. So all that cement and stuff, people breathing in all the time.
Wow.
And then when they get sick from working up there, you then take up the salary. And tell everyone you are giving them extension of sick leave on no pay. So the money that you were paid, because what happens, they pay you. And they say, no, something, we should not have paid you. And they say, well, you want to pay it back. And then you're seeing some overzealous accountant or senior clerk or whoever does the payroll saying, you owe us this money, you're going to pay it back, and we're going to take up so much a month. To the extent that one woman last month in the prison got $89. for her month's pay. $89. Who in Barbados can live on $89?
$89.
And we sign conventions that say that you can't take up more than a third of a person's salary. The government signed that with the International Labour Organization on the 8th of May 1967. Protection of Wages Convention. And it applies to everybody who earns a wage in Barbados. That's what it says in the convention. But senior public officers, at the behest of politicians, take away your rights even though they are settled in law. And nobody is doing anything about it. I have been fighting these issues for years. But if you try to stop only one person ever stop. The people like the print, when they point out to them that you don't got the authority to do this, the woman said, well, look, I ain't going to fight for these things. Let me send it for an opinion. Your opinion ain't come back yet, and there's years.
Right,
because they know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. When the head of the department said, look, I am going to get a legal opinion on this because Caswell is saying one thing, when they say something else, they may do the legal opinion. They may do it because they know they're wrong. And they know they're wrong, and they're not willing to admit they're wrong because right now, you see that $50 million that they're spending, that can pale into a significant amount of money they stole from public officers over the years. And that is the problem.
Wow.
But Dr. Ferdinand, it's like I've been on the show, and that's how the show started with Mr. Franklin talking about workers' rights, what is due to workers, the workers' conditions, their pay, everything. And I've been thinking that we have to find a way to document all of it, Mr. Franklin, as it relates to workers. I think, and then we need every now and again, we've done it before where we've just given Mr. Franklin, just let him speak. And we need one of those coming up very, very soon because these topics here, it's a recurring thing. I have spoken to persons as well, Mr. Franklin, who said about this, where, she received a little bit of money and they said that they were taking out money out of her pay because they overpaid her for something. And I was trying to, but so hearing you tonight give a lot of perspective to it. But let's bring in Dr. Ferdinand. Probably we should bring in Colin Spencer and then see what we can. Should we bring him in, Mr. Franklin?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I tell you, Marcy, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm seeing Colin. Colin, you just need to lower your camera down a little bit. We can only see the top of your eyes and your head, but I know that people are going to want to see you.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's you right there. There you are.
Yes.
Welcome. Marcia, why don't you go right ahead and introduce him? It's I tell you, we heard something on Saturday that was absolutely lovely.
I thought that's what you were going to talk about. Well, let me just welcome Mr. Colin Spencer with us tonight. Oh, he disappeared.
He dropped out.
Yeah, he dropped out.
But just to talk about him while he's trying to get back in, to say that Mr. Colin Spencer has, over the years, he has just been so consistent in putting out great material.
Yes.
For at Crop Over Time. I'm a big Calypso fan. And I've gotten into trouble with it from the church many times. Many times. Because when I didn't just start to get in trouble, the first place was with the church. When I took a whole band and put it out in the Kadooment band. And so I was in trouble with them and then helped to start a tent in the church.
I wasn't a part of the tent, but I was a part of the march.
Yes, I know.
I tell you,
that was not, but I got a chance to meet a lot of these guys and realize that they are just like us. They're activists,
yes,
like us,
they
and
are
they use
in their own way.
they use the medium of song and
Yes.
the arts to speak to Barbadians of what happened and what's happening in the year. And Mr. Franklin, we would wait on the Calypso to know, what has happened. Over the years, we've seen that change, especially over the last 6 years. And now that the BLP is in power, Caswell says, because the BLP is in power, they don't have any material. But not Mr. Colin Spencer.
Absolutely
and so we
not.
are so thrilled to have him tonight. Good night, Mr. Spencer. Good night, Mr. Spencer. Can't hear him. I'm going to suggest, it seemed like it could be his bandwidth. So I'm going to suggest that he turns off his camera, and let's see if we can still, we could hear just we'll have a black screen, but at least we'll hear him. Can you turn off the camera? All right. While we're waiting,
not sure he's hearing us.
Yes. While we're waiting, let's have we know what we should play the song from last year. Let's play the song from last year. Dave, can we have that? That the song from last year, and then we're going to talk to him off air and see how we can make sure that we get to hear him tonight.
This song is dedicated to all those who appreciate social commentary calypso and are firm believers in freedom of expression. May the good Lord continue to bless you. I'm going to jump on Miss Motley's bandwagon, and I don't care what nobody say, 'cause I do not intend to remain forever in the minority mode. I want to experience what so many others seem to be experiencing now, and I am determined to get in on the action as soon as time would allow. But I am somewhat reluctant, 'cause I have never followed anyone blindly. So come on, Prime Minister, demonstrate your power and do these couple things for me. Push for the removal from the Anglican Church of portraits of that white Jesus, and legislate that the head of BTMI must be from Barbados. Take 5 acres of land from every plantation as reparations for blacks, and let me see if Commission and Sir Hillary will support you on that. If you do these things, madam, I'll bow down at your feet, madam. I'll sing your praises, drink your Kool-Aid, and eat anything you tell me to eat. And when you're entering Jackson Terrace Stage 2, I'll greet you with a loud fanfare. But in order for me to grant you such a treat, you would first have to pass through there. If you do these things, I'll jump in your choir and sing. No matter what, I must get on that bandwagon. I know that there is still room for me, even though I've noticed all kind of riffraff getting on board recently, several of whom are nothing but an embarrassment to our ancestors, and some educated ones who would pass yard foulism with flying colors. But their degree of contentment has piqued my interest, got me eager to get a taste. Now I am one step closer, but I want the PM to do a few more things with haste. Give Griner the same 8,000 monthly that you're giving Mighty Gabby, and extend to others apart from Edwin what seems like a retainer fee. Tell Miss Fenty ASAP we love her dearly. After all, she was born right here. But let her know we don't compromise our standards for poor billionaire. If you do these things, madam, I'll bow down at your feet, madam. sing your praises, drink your Kool-Aid and eat anything you tell me to eat. And when your friends go cruising the Caribbean Sea, tell them don't fight and embarrass me. But if they do and end up getting beat, tell them at least remain on their feet. If you do these things, I'll jump in your choir and sing. And I want you to convince Carol she is not a Motley but really a Roberts Reefer. And remind her that she is NCF CEO, not the Minister of Culture. Tell Wilfred Abrams to practice at home how to blow his conch shell. And congratulate Milrow on his achievements because they are serving him well. If you do these things, madam, I'll bow down at your feet. I'll sing your praises, drink your Kool-Aid and eat anything you tell me to eat. And all the talk you just run about transparency, show us it isn't just hot air by revealing how many properties you purchased within the last 4 years. If you do these things, I'll jump in your choir and sing. How great thou art, how great thou
Yes,
Oh my
lovely.
God, that's
I was telling you, when I grow up, I want to be like Colin to write some of them lyrics.
that's a serious song there, Mr.
Oh
Francis.
yes.
Definitely, you know, it's biting,
I'm telling you.
you know, and you can, well, you have to be blind not to see what he is, you know, saying. You know, or I talk about politically blind.
Yes, yeah.
Oh boy, I tell you.
You know, and you might not like it because of your political connections, but it's an excellent song.
Yes,
It
yes.
really is, and it's the way he writes, and you know, he says, you know, I will do the things. I will bow down. You know, I will basically sing how great thou art. If you do these things, it will be fine. We won't need to have you do the things, and we will come on here and we will sing. We will drink the Kool-Aid and we will sing in the choir.
Do the right thing. Do the right things.
Let's do the right things.
Do the right things.
You know, and that is what really what the Calypso is supposed to do.
Yes.
But we're finding that more and more people are being afraid, you know, to speak up and to you know, to do anything at all because they're scared. And now with the cybercrime bill, you know, anybody who is mentioned in the song Carol, who he says need to be reminded that she is not the Minister of Culture, and her name is not Motley, because you know, she does behave, in my opinion, you know, especially when John King was there, and I can speak because I had that experience. All right, so it's not something I'm making up. Right, that
but she knew what you didn't know is that John King was only there for the time being. He was expendable and very expendable. She was buying. She put him in there to hold the seat till you can get care McConaughey to come down to Barbados.
Correct.
So, but Carol, knowing this, realized that he was not a real minister, you know, and treated him to suit.
Yeah, I remember, I remember this is what happened to me, and I'm telling my story because people love to send me messages afterwards. That I went down to had a great chat with John King, and we were supposed to, I think, receive an award in Rwanda or something for our film. Dave will remember the story better than I would. And we were sent down to the NCF to speak to Miss Roberts, and John King sent us down there, and we were told to come, given an appointment, And my husband is there as a witness. We sat there and waited, and this woman refused to come downstairs to meet with us. And we saw her, she was up in her office. They told us give her a minute. She never came down because in her mind, in my estimation, she was not going to take any directive from John King. So we talk about all the things that's happening in the JLP. Let me tell you, they treated John King as though he was doo-doo. I tell you, or whatever you call Jobby. That's how they treated John King. Regardless of what people want to say about John King, I can tell you that he was not properly treated. He was not treated well in that party. From the PM, right, everybody. They took his ideas, they took it, and they would not. And that's one of the reasons you see me, apart from what happened at East on Good Friday. Because I knew of the unjust things that happened to John King because I was dealing with him with culture. So when it has that line in there that you are not the minister of culture, Mr. Spencer know what he's talking about because I experienced that. So these Calypso, the Calypsos, they're true to life, you know. But let's see. We were chatting until Colin. Okay, we can see him clear. Hello, Mr. Spencer. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Oh, great. Wonderful, Colin. Great to see you and hear that song, man. One of these days, you got to teach me how to write lyrics. I tell you. You got to teach
Good
me how to
evening.
write
Good evening
lyrics.
to everyone.
Good evening to you.
How y'all doing? Casual, you all right?
Oh, great, great.
We can't hear you, Mr. Franklin.
You're muted,
No, I
Casual.
said most of the
Okay.
time.
Oh, okay. Good.
Well, Mr. Spencer, we're so happy to have you here tonight, and we just want to honor you for the work that you have done in Barbados over the years. I mean, we're just starting with our activism, not Caswell, but you have been doing activism with your in song for so long, for years now.
Thank
And
you.
can you
Yes.
tell us how long have you been doing this, sir?
I started in Calypso in 1995, but I've not. Last December was 50 years I've been singing professionally.
Wow, 50 years. And every year that I listen to this man, I mean, I remember once I was at the semifinals. I tell you, I'm a big fan and of Calypso. And I remember you singing a song called Signs. It was Signs of the Time or The Signs. You can't even remember. You can't even remember now. It's so many, and it was so touching. I tell you, very, very, very powerful. Always, always powerful.
Thank
You're
you.
like a mouthpiece, and you continue regardless of who is in power.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You continue. Now we were just listening to your song. Do these things. If you do these things, can you tell us the motivation behind that song?
Well, I honestly wish that when I first started writing, that I had taken note of wherever I was and what I was thinking at the point. And I wish all writers would do or would have done the same, because it would make for interesting literature for people to read. It came about because I'm an Anglican, huh? And sang in St. George's Parish Church Choir for a number of years. And however I go to church, you look up and you see these paintings of what is supposed to be a Jesus, and it bothers me that after all these years we don't see anything wrong with that as a people, on a society. Irish problem that there.
Are you hearing him clearly? Are you hearing him clearly?
He's going down a bit low.
Okay, can you try just experiment for me, Mr. Spencer? Just take off your camera and let's see if we can hear you a little better, because we want to hear what you're saying.
Take off. take off?
Yes, just turn off your camera and keep on your microphone, and let's talk and see if that might be better. While we're doing that, guys, we're asking you to share. Share. We have another song from Colin that he's going to share with us tonight. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Mrs. Spencer, continue speaking. Let's see if that works.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Keep
Yes.
going and let's see. Yes.
Hear me?
Yes. Okay. Mrs. Spencer, are you still there?
I'm hearing you as well.
You're hearing. Okay, so you were saying that you were at church and you looked up and you saw what is supposed to be the Messiah, and you were concerned about that. So you can pick up the story from there.
Yes, and that's how that's particular song started, and then it expanded into other things, asking questions that will not be answered.
Mm-hmm.
That was the fun. I know that.
Yeah, so we're still having some challenges. Oh man. So sorry about that, guys. But let's play, Dave, if we can play one of the other song at this time. And while we wait to work out these technical issues, sometimes the Wi-Fi where he is, because we're fine with the system is fine. Okay, he's there again. There he is. You're here again. Can you hear? All right. So Dave, can you go ahead and play the next song? Thank you so much.
Psalm 34, verse 4. I sought the Lord, he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. We are facing a serious problem in the east, the west, north, and south. And what makes it much more worrisome is very few can figure it out. So we're just trying to hold it together, trying to preserve our sanity. But maybe only divine intervention at this point could rescue we. It's like we are on a roller coaster, traveling fast but going nowhere. Then an old man said, listen to me, mister, Barbados is overcome by fear. We live in fear of giving some lawyers our hard-earned money, because we fear that they're going to spend it and we might not get back any. We fear the education ministry will have a simulation somewhere or further traumatize our children with some asinine survey. We know it isn't fair to impose taxes on the pensions of old people, but we fear speaking out against those who for this are responsible. So whether it smells FDAR or FAIR, you can't fool me. Some kind of fear is definitely stifling our country. La, 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 la. Fear is the hottest topic debated by radio DJs and journalists. You just often hear them lamenting how did Barbados get like this. I'm told the journalists are instructed what to ignore and what not to say, while the DJs are given a long list of songs that they must not play. Well, I'm not known for double entendre, I just deal with simplicity. But figuring out who's calling the shots here, come on, Bajans, that's so easy. We truly fear getting into trouble in this beloved country. Cause there seems to be one law for poor people and another one for the wealthy. We know it won't be fair if Maloney is still getting big government contracts. Cause under the last administration, Mia had so much to say about that. We fear that the cybercrime bill will curtail freedom of speech in this land. And it's fair to say it will affect the work of Calypsonians. So whether it spells F-E-A-R or F-A-I-R, you can't fool me. Some kind of fear is definitely crippling our country. It shouldn't shock you if I tell you that this problem is nothing new. It's been with us for generations, and it's familiar to me and you. But we like to sweep things under the carpet, gloss them over or just ignore. When it comes to making big time decisions, frankly speaking, we beat quite poor. And there was a time when the Anglican clergy spoke out for the community. Their silence now causes me to wonder if they've been bought out politically. We fear that in the future we'll struggle to recruit any new police, because it's fair to say our young people are becoming too damn obese. And many fear telling this government, stop the long talk about culture, cause every year it is inadequate. The funding for crop over. We know it's unfair that NCF fails to help out Trevor Eastman, especially since they've helped others who put this country in the nothing. So whether it spells F-E-A-R or F-A-I-R, it's plain to see some kind of fear most definitely is affecting our country.
Another one. As Anika said, Colin, this is a big one. Mr. Franklin, what do you think about this one?
Unfortunately, Marcia, BLP in power. You know, I keep telling everybody, when the BLP is in power, they stifle the people who sing songs that they don't like, and they're gonna like this.
They're not gonna like this.
A lot of people ain't gonna like it because this artist is telling the truth. You know, when he spoke about these people getting the police force, you'll be surprised the amount of people who say, "Well, I want the place," but that's the ramen. That boy you gotta eat because they got nothing else. You know, it's very hard to get a balanced diet in Barbados if you earn minimum wage.
Yeah.
And so it is hard hitting and it is factual.
Yeah.
He didn't even pull any low blows, low punches. He's just right up there. But of course,
yeah, he just stated what is. And
what will happen? You might get somebody to come and rule that it is not what they say
it is intimidating and
yes.
It's hurtful.
Some good arbiter.
Yes, people are loving the song. I don't know if he can hear us. If Colin can hear us, I don't know. We would have wanted to hear him because I love to hear the story behind. Colin, can you hear us? Doesn't seem to be able to hear us, but I hope he will be able to read the comments that are on the screen. I mean, what I love is the poetry. It's the way it's written, and all of these, just the way it's not. You have to think about what's written. And that's what I love about it. The art. There's an art about Colin's delivery. his work. And I know you're an artist as well, Dr. Ferdinand. Any comments there on his songwriting skills?
Well, it's amazing, how they can weave a story into the song in such a manner. It's amazing and very creative. In I can't remember what they call it. There's a name for it where you write something, but the message,
The double entendre.
Yes, where that message, is not just hidden. It's pretty clear out there, but they're doing it in such a concealed way. You know what I'm saying? But Marcia, that's the thing that this bill really threatens, because some names are called and some things are referred to, and all in good genre, if I'm choosing the right word, and good in good lingual creativity.
Yes.
For a Calypsonian, and people can take an offense, but I've heard so many of these songs, Marcia, and I'm sure you have over the years. Some have actually been even more pointed than what we just heard. I mean, I've heard some songs that have been very, very, very straight and not very flattering. But I know many of the politicians who, in the past, would just laugh it off, and not be offended by it. But now we have a cybercrime bill that seeks to threaten Mr. Spencer from putting together good lyrical content. And I took the opportunity, Marcia, in the few minutes that we were off, to look up Colin and to see how many of his how much of his music is actually out there, and how much is out there that he has performed and written and so on. And it just goes to show what this cybercrime bill can do in silencing him and having to pull down some of the YouTube videos that are out there with him.
Yes.
And that type of thing. And we really need to pay attention to this.
Yeah. I mean, all kinds of things can happen.
Freddie, you said, about the Calypsos that were even more biting than time. You remember Sandyford, former Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Nobody took more licks than him in Calypso, and Sandy enjoyed the Calypso.
Yes.
It was an art form. But we got a lot of thin-skinned people who should stay as far as possible from power.
Should stay as far as possible from politics.
Yeah, but but
really.
Sandy took licks, man, and you have to admire him. He didn't try to ban or block anybody or sue anybody. Sandy would enjoy the Calypso himself. But politicians are not made of that stuff anymore.
Well, Caswell, I don't know if you can see the screen, but look at that content in the screen, where it's referring to a person who intentionally or recklessly uses a computer system to publish, broadcast, transmit data that includes private sexual photos, to send repeatedly to another person data that is obscure, vulgar, lewd, indecent, well-being, is guilty of the offense. I'm just trying to read down, following it, following the document that's there. I think that's the same one. Yeah, just need to
go to 3. This is 2. We're to 3.
Yeah, to 3. Right, there we go. Person who intentionally used a computer system to
go to 3. Go to 3.
Yeah, go to 3. Yeah, just scroll up to 3. Dave, right up to 3. 2 is not 1. Yes, great. Okay, hold right there. Person who intentionally used a computer system to disseminate any image or words, not caring whether they are true or false, and causes or is likely to cause a subject a person to ridicule, contempt, or embarrassment, is guilty of an offense. Imagine that, and some of these lyrical contents can be somewhat embarrassing, because they're exposing and revealing reality. And imagine Mr. Spencer having to face these legal consequences as a Calypsonian, a writer of music of this kind. That is really not satisfactory. Really is not. Really is not. And we keep pointing for the, and again, for the purpose of the subsection 1, to intimidate means to cause in the mind of a reasonable person injury to himself, any member of his family, or any of his dependent, in the mind of the individual. So I am supposed to know what I am doing, how it's affecting somebody in their mind. And I'm not even around them. I'm supposed to know how that is affecting you in your mind, the mind of a reasonable person, and apprehension of violence or damage, a person, substantial emotional distress. Injury includes injury or damage to a person respective of his business, occupation, profession, employment, or other source of income. You know, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I was waiting for some comments from you, Caswell.
No, I agree with you, Freddie. That is what got me going with this whole cybercrime bill, simply because these people don't want you to say a single word. If they just want you to sit down and be like a little Sunday school church mouse, keep very quiet. Because it was just Sunday school boy, but Sunday school boys be a bad sometimes, but this is like a little church mouse. You don't want, they just want you to be there timid and afraid. You know? It's
absolutely, I mean, you've referred to it yourself on more than one occasion, the video with that young man that's speaking, I think, in one of their Christchurch meetings, and he talks about how they have to protect their ministers, and in protecting their ministers, you know, a song like what Colin would have written could have an offense and could cause embarrassment to a minister. So what? Now Colin is going to find himself either fined or in prison,
confined.
or confined, fined or confined, or both. You know, and that's ridiculous. I mean, you are actually infringing upon one of the cultural aspects of our country. You know, and it's regrettable. It's regrettable, honestly.
You know, somebody said, someone, Sky is saying here, they sang about Mr. Sandiford, and he used to be right there in the tent.
Yes,
and he never said he would sue anyone, right?
No.
And so, you know, I mean, you know, I know that we are targets for Calypsos. You know that.
Oh yes.
They're going to. I know. Colin wrote one and included my name and Caswell's name in it. And it was, you know, it was flattering. However, know that the same way that they can do that, they could use a Calypso and say something else. And we have to be thick-skinned enough that we can, because it's Calypso. That is what it is. It's the art form, you know, and so on. But he's having trouble. We spoke about that, and he wouldn't be coming back on. But he's going to be at his tent, and his tent is meeting at St. Gabriel's, and it's every Sunday evening. This is the All Stars Calypso tent, and we're
every Sunday evening at what time, Morris?
He's sending me all of that information,
okay.
And I'm hoping that that I'm going to have it soon. He told me that he will send it to me, and so on. But we're going to just play, since we're giving him this time. We're going to play that first song again. I think people love that first one. If you do these things,
I'm almost tempted to ask you to play the one he did. He played at the Independence Girls.
Oh, you want the one about fear?
That was the one we just listened to that he sang?
Yes.
Okay. No, go ahead.
No. If you want that one,
no.
Everybody, quickly tell me which one you want. The one, if you do these things, or fear. What do you all want?
Fear.
You want fear? And Ferdinand said fear too, right?
Yeah, you know, I like that one. I like that one.
All right. Okay.
Psalm 34, verse 4. I sought the Lord, he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. We are facing a serious problem in the east, the west, north, and south. And what makes it much more worrisome is very few can figure it out. So we're just trying to hold it together, trying to preserve our sanity. But maybe only divine intervention at this point could rescue we. It's like we are on a roller coaster, traveling fast but going nowhere. Then an old man said, listen to me, mister. Barbados is overcome by fear. We live in fear of giving some lawyers our hard-earned money, because we fear that they're going to spend it and we might not get back any. We fear the education ministry will have a simulation somewhere or further traumatize our children with some asinine survey. We know it isn't fair to impose taxes on the pensions of old people, but we fear speaking out against those who for this are responsible. So whether it smells FDAR or FAIR, you can't fool me. Some kind of fear is definitely stifling our country. La, 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 la. Fear is the hottest topic debated by radio DJs and journalists. You just often hear them lamenting how did Barbados get like this. I'm told the journalists are instructed what to ignore and what not to say, while the DJs are given a long list of songs that they must not play. Well, I'm not done for double entendre. I just deal with simplicity, but figuring out who's calling the shots here, come on, patrons, that's so easy. We truly fear getting into trouble in this beloved country, cause there seems to be one law for poor people and another one for the wealthy. We know it won't be fair if Maloney is still getting big government contracts, cause under the last administration, Mia had so much to say about that. We fear that the cybercrime bill will curtail freedom of speech in this land, and it's fair to say it will affect the work of CALYPSONIANS. So whether it spells FEAR or FAIR, you can't fool me. Some kind of fear is definitely crippling our country. It shouldn't shock you if I tell you that this problem is nothing new. It's been with us for generations, and it's familiar to me and you. But we like to sweep things under the carpet, gloss them over or just ignore. When it comes to making big time decisions, frankly speaking, we beat quite poor. And there was a time when the Anglican clergy spoke out for the community. Their silence now causes me to wonder if they've been bought out politically. We fear that in the future we'll struggle to recruit any new police, because it's fair to say our young people are becoming too damn obese. And many fear telling this government, stop the long talk about culture, cause every year it is inadequate. The funding for crop over. We know it's in fear that NCF fails to help out Trevor Eastman, especially since they've helped others who put this country into nothing. So whether it spells FEAR or FAIR, it's plain to see some kind of fear most definitely is affecting our country.
I tell you.
Yes, yes.
Biting
yes.
lyrics, man. Biting lyrics.
Yeah,
Lyrics.
biting. Somebody said we can use this as one of our theme song on the road, boy, because
But
it
I
is
think only fair is absolutely truthful.
But
it is the whole truth and nothing but.
But he takes a swipe at the clergy too. So, I find that very offensive, and I'm intimidated by that, and I think I'm going to report this this song to the police, because it really has hurt my feelings.
You're going to get to that pass.
I'm doing my best to promote the gospel and preach and help to change lives. And he writes the song that is so embarrassing and really hurts my feelings. I'm going to call the police with regards to this.
You know what? We should have, Miss McLean, I see Miss McLean laughing. We should have a Calypsonians on throughout the crop over, and just to show the public the silliness of this bill, to show them how silly
I would
the
agree
bill
with
is.
that.
Marcia, if you do that, you're going to bring the same people over and over again, because the bees ain't singing nothing. These bees ain't singing no at all.
I started calling up a couple of the tents,
Yeah.
and I need them to come. Listen, we need to make a little trouble. We need to cause a little trouble. Miss McLean, good night. Any of the Calypsonians ever sang about you?
No, I'm not important. What I can tell you, though, is I've always enjoyed Colin Spencer. I was listening.
Oh, yes.
And the truth is, he sings about everybody.
That's
People
right.
know that Colin Spencer was a candidate for the Democratic Labour Party, but he sang about the party. He sings about everybody. You see, Calypso, especially social commentary, which is the origin of Calypso, is about topical issues. So when you hear, you go and you listen to vintage Calypso, Calypsos from Trinidad, and all Barbadian calypsos, you hear people singing about issues, and you listen and you can understand the issues of the period or the day, at the time. And if I as I listen, I recall I have a dear friend of blessed memory. I had a tent buddy and a political meeting buddy. This is a friend of mine. He used to take me to all these meetings and these tents, because you listen, and I just want to reiterate something that was said. I think Caswell mentioned it about former Prime Minister Sir Lloyd. And I remember at his funeral somebody mentioning that he loved Calypso. He would be sitting up front and listening to people sing about him. That's the nature of the thing. And so if people want to get offended, Ferdy, if I didn't know better, I would have been convinced that you're ready to go to court.
No, well, I hope you could hear the sarcasm in my voice. I mean,
think about it.
Yeah, but that's it. But that's what the bill sets us up for, Maxine. I mean,
and I can bet you that any of the members of cabinet would leave these shores and go somewhere and say to the world, "Oh, in Barbados, we endorse the right of citizens to freedom of speech and expression." I really enjoyed listening last night. And today, and Marcia, yes. I would say, even if Caswell said invite Calypsonians, you can hear once they're not singing any bawdy or dirty lyrics. I mean, everybody may not sing, so you may get a chance to compare and contrast the serious social commentary with what you may call party, and listen to what subjects inform the Calypsonian, once it is something that can be carried, because Calypso is a big part of our lives, so. But Colin Spencer is perennially good in terms of his lyrics and so on. He may be biting, but he does not constrain himself when he looks at subject matter. I mean, any and when it comes to politics, any political party is fair game for his pen,
Well, like I
remember in the old days with Sedon, Mr. Messiah,
Yes.
That was classic. I would never forget that.
Yes.
And Tom Clark at CBC,
Yes.
The old Calypso. This is what it was all about.
And if you go and listen, as I said, when you mentioned Tom Clark, and when you listen, you know what that was about? That was an era he came home to Barbados to run CBC.
Yes.
And told the fellas, lose your suits, put on a shirt jack. You're in Barbados. Why are you gonna dress up in a suit? Yep.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you.
Yvette Berry is agreeing with us that social commentary is about speaking about what's going on.
Yes, but it's a part of
And
our
in a
culture, man.
creative and fun way.
It's
And
a part of
yeah.
our culture, you know, because when you stop and think of, that's why I am saying that our borders are being breached in terms of imposing upon us things that just simply don't sit in the culture of Barbados. You know, and to me, we need to stand up. I think again, and let me see if I can find it. I made a note this morning in the meeting I was in. Somebody said that we need to correct what has gone wrong. And that is really what we're trying to do. And things have to be pulled back into alignment, you know, because we've drifted so far away from what is the acceptable norm in Barbados that you can't even talk. I mean,
Marcia, I have an idea for you. Listen, I know Ferdy can sing. So I'll be a judge. I can't sing. But I want you to have a calypso competition. We can start with Caswell, the mighty Caswell.
the mighty general.
General Mighty. No, General Mighty is a better.
Mine is Queen Nanny. I'm Nanny.
All right. So
my singing is reserved for the shower.
mine would be Songbird. That's what
all right. I'll be judge because I can't sing.
Mine would be Songbird. But Colin would have to write my lyrics.
Well, we are. I'm gonna tell you something. We are waiting on Senator NAKHID from Trinidad, and he said to tell him, give him some, 10 minutes before time to come on. And I'm sending him the message. So we're waiting. If he's listening, we're waiting on you to come on. And what is going to happen, Mr. Franklin? He's coming on to talk about the situation in Trinidad and Tobago with Christmas list that is going all over the world. And so he has something to say about it as it relates to our youth in the Caribbean and the type of crimes that we are seeing happening. And while we wait on him, Ms. McLean, let's just start to talk about what we see happening, the trend that we see happening even here in Barbados in terms of crime. I know that's not what you in particular came on to speak on today, but we're going to get to that other issue with St. Kitts later. Mm-hmm. But can we just talk a bit about what we're seeing in Barbados? It's like I've never seen anything like this before, Miss McLean.
No, I think we perhaps don't understand the extent to which, and I'm not justifying crime, but I'm seeking to explain some of what I see, the extent to which people simply do not have a means to exist legitimately, to earn. And so, the response to that, maybe when I was young and people were poor, people didn't steal necessarily, but what it was that your grandmother or your neighbor or somebody may make sure that you had something to eat. But I get a sense that some of the crime is not simply to feed a drug habit or sheer lawlessness, but it is a case where people have become desperate.
Yes.
You have other reasons for crime where people want to probably, as I said, they want to feed a drug habit, or they're looking to find money to go to some event and they're not earning enough or whatever. But it is not simply a rejection in many instances of a job that doesn't quote unquote pay decent salaries. But people have reached a point where they don't have anywhere to go. Mm-hmm. And that is a scary thing, because if somebody becomes so desperate, they will turn upon almost anybody, and so you have what I would say categories of crime. In fact, one of the things that you used to see, especially where you see evidence of gun crime and where people, shootings and so on, that people sometimes were looking at taking revenge because these are, warring, I guess, drug dealers or whatever the case may be. But I'm seeing another kind of crime where people are breaking into homes. I mean, almost every week, somebody in my neighborhood is posting a photograph of images from cameras, you know, home cameras, where people are prowling around trying to pick up, you know, take up things and steal. I mean, I saw a video sometime, I wasn't sure if it was this neighborhood, but somebody was actually stealing one of these large gas cylinders, you know, the cooking gas.
I saw that. I don't know if it was Barbados.
You know, but that kind of thing, when somebody does that, I don't think it is out of sheer lawlessness. And so, to me, as I said, I'm not justifying any action, but in trying to explain or understand it, what we are perhaps seeing is, as I said, some desperate action on people who simply have no income, as one category of crime. And it would be interesting, maybe when you do an analysis of court testimonies, when people go before the court, people going into supermarket and taking things and whatever. So it's a question of what categories of crime are we seeing manifested, the level of how seriousness of crime and the level of violence that is part of that criminal activity. And really and truly was the genesis of that, because as I said, if people are living in households where they are, and I think your guest is with us, so
yes, he's settling.
You know,
let me let him settle.
I think I would have
let him settle in dignity.
Oh, okay. So in a sense, what I'm saying is, if it is really trying to get at an understanding from looking at testimonies in court, you know, the cases that go before the courts and so on, what exactly is happening, who is committing the crime, what's the nature of the crime, the whys and the hows of that, because you probably see a mix of activity. And my concern really and truly is where we have any evidence of crime committed largely for what I will call out of sheer effort to survive, we have to really sit down and take stock and ask ourselves, how can we reverse that?
Yes, most definitely.
What must be done to prevent people getting to that point?
Yes, let me just bring the viewers up to speed, and I'm waiting on Senator NAKHID just to let us know, give us a thumbs up when he's ready to come into the studio. We'll wait on that thumbs up. But let me just say here that there is a report in the BBC about this issue in Trinidad. This is very, very serious. And here we are in Barbados talking about this issue with Christmas, or Christopher Hughes is his real name. And it says a Canadian YouTuber accused of sedition in the Caribbean nation of Trinidad and Tobago has appeared in court and been ordered to surrender his passport. Christopher Arthur Hughes, which is the same Christmas List, who posts under the account Christmas List, is known for videos in which he travels to dangerous places across the globe. He was arrested on Thursday after publishing videos in which he interviewed Trinidadian gang members about their opposition to the government. And we all know that he was in jail. He was charged, and we are now told that he's out on bail. And so let me go right to Mr. Senator David NAKHID. Good night, sir. And how are you?
Good night, everyone across the Caribbean, especially in Barbados. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for your invitation.
Well, I read your response today in the newspaper, the Trinidad and Tobago newspaper, and I said, you know what, this man understands what is happening in Trinidad among the youth, and possibly what this gentleman was trying to do. But let's can you give us an overview, Senator NAKHID, on the state of crime in Trinidad and Tobago and the involvement of youth in these types of crimes?
Well, it's as you've explained before. as you see it. We have a very horrific state of criminality in Trinidad and Tobago, and across the Caribbean. I would posit. It's because of a lack of neglect. I think we've had leaders that have paid attention to the wrong issues that plagued our nation since independence. I think people have done well within our communities across the Caribbean, but they have not been the Black communities, and that is a fact. Statistics bear that out. And I think our leaders have been pseudo-colonialists in most part. I speak specifically about Trinidad and Jamaica, and in part Barbados and Grenada. And I think the chickens are coming home to roost in that regard. And we can put a spin on it, we can put a narrative on it. The fact is that we've neglected a major stakeholders of our countries, and that those are the young Black boys and girls in our countries. And what Christmas did was do what anyone right now in this time with the advent of social media and your ability to make money off of social media. He came into a country like possibly a YouTuber who deals with foodie content, or with carnival content, or with beach content, or tourism content. He came in with which is a very niche market, and that deals with crime specifically. And he was able to highlight what we've known all along, that young Black boys, young Indian boys, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago, have taken to crime because they have been historically neglected by a party. Specifically, I speak to our country, a country that has been in power for the better part of 62 years, have neglected those same communities that vote for them, that vote for that party. And that is a fact. I'm telling you, what I'm telling you here is not the opinion of an opposition senator. It's a fact. It's a truism. And now we see these young Black boys and Indian boys who got someone to listen to them and share their story. And we heard the pain in their voices. And I connect to the ground, the East-West corridor particularly, where those communities are, because I played football for my country. I played with boys from those communities. I was the captain of the Trinidad national team for 6 years. So I understand their plight. And I was determined when I came back into the politics to fix those communities. And I will fix those communities. And it's a pity that we've reached to the point where young boys, 19 years old, 20 years old, can find a space in the mortuary before they can find a space in the employment line. They can find a gun worth $15,000 before they can find a job. And these are just facts. These things don't happen just so, as we say in the Caribbean. They don't happen just so. No young man, I don't care of what ethnicity, gets up and say, well, he wants to be a criminal. Give him an opportunity and he will take the right way. Most times he will take the right path. But we have not given them that path in the Caribbean, and especially in Trinidad and Tobago. We have not given them that opportunity to reach their potential, and then we find it easy to say, well, we should deal with them in the penal system. But that is fundamentally wrong. What changes then from how the colonialists dealt with us, if that's how we deal with our own children? We have done nothing. We have made little or no progress as far as the human resources of our country goes. We have made little progress in the Caribbean. We have focused on things that have created an imbalance in society that exacerbates the social and economic inequity that any young man or young woman growing up in the Caribbean, they're going to feel a sense of disenfranchisement. They're going to feel that they have been disenfranchised by their government. And that's just a fact.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
sorry for my long overview, but I think it was necessary to give you a perspective, an historical perspective of it.
No, I mean I'm just caught up in what you're saying, because I was born in Jamaica, and I totally understand what you're saying. Grew up in one of those communities and realized that, they use the communities for votes, but then there is nothing there. There's no infrastructure, there is no plan, there's no vision for these communities. And then you know what, those same guys and girls, they started harass everybody, torment everybody. But let me hear from former Senator Caswell Franklin is with us. And former Senator Franklin, I'm sure you hear the Senator NAKHID speaking about what's happening in Trinidad, and he has extended it to the Caribbean. Do you agree with him that we are basically, it's really an effect, really a cause of bad governance within our Caribbean countries?
It is greed and bad governance. When the politicians get in power, they look out for themselves and their families and their friends, and so the people who don't fit into those categories have to find something. And Senator NAKHID is quite right. These guys are marginalized, and they're going to find a gun. They're going to find something. And the thing is, those guys with the guns can't afford them, so they're getting them from somebody. But you're going after the wrong people, because the people who are providing the guns are some of the same people who are the beg up to society, just like the drugs. You don't get drugs on line of credit. Nobody don't give you a line of credit to any bank in 30 days or 90 days or whatever. You pay cash, and you go after the fellow with a few spliffs, and the guy who was importing it, and by the container, gets and as a result, the guys who are there, they don't fit into the power. People who got friends, and they ain't got the money, so they will be attracted by the criminal element.
Yeah.
Look and see what's happening. I think only St. Lucia used to be a nice, peaceful place. I love St. Lucia. You don't make connections to St. Lucia. But St. Lucia started to get bad. People go there killing people and burning up in cars and all kind of nonsense. They watch it on TV. Because
Yes.
it's the same thing is happening all over. And the only cause among all of them is politics and politicians.
Right. So you're saying greed and governance. Let me go back to Senator NAKHID. Thank you, Caswell. Let me go to Senator NAKHID. What do you think in light of what you have just said, in your overview of crime in the Caribbean and in Trinidad? What do you think was the objective of Christmas list when he came to Trinidad? Why did you think he came there?
His objective was clear. He stated his objective, and I think it's well known. It's the objective of any YouTuber. It was to get shares and likes. The more shares and likes you get, the more money you possibly can make. Yes. As you get more popular. It's a thriving business now. So I think that was his objective. I don't think he had any utopian or altruistic intentions. As far as I know, there were no nefarious intentions on his part as well. I think it reflects very badly on our government that they have arrested him for sedition, which is a totally anachronistic, archaic act from colonial times.
Can you explain to us? We're trying to understand the charge of sedition. How do you? What can you explain? What are they calling seditious then?
Well, Section 4C of the Sedition Act in this country, in Trinidad and Tobago, dates back to pre-colonial history, and it basically states that it goes to intent. If you have the intent to create a rift or disharmony between two different communities, and facilitate perhaps an uprising against the government in some form or fashion, you can be charged with sedition. Now, basically, that word intent is the important word here. What that means is, as far as the colonialists were concerned, it was who determines intent. Nobody can tell me what's my intention, only God. But the colonialists, God and the Queen or King could tell you what is their intention as a colonial, as someone who has been colonized. They determine if your intent was to so it was something very subjective. And to be honest, it's laughable as we claim to be people of independent states, and we claim to be very aware and enlightened about our place in an African space in the diaspora. So it's laughable that we still have something like that on the books. Be that as it may, they use that because basically Christmas lists embarrass the government. The government because he highlighted the plight of those Black and Indian boys in the communities who had picked up the gun, and he embarrassed them in that way because the government are at sea. The government are at sea for the last 9-10 years when it comes to the crime situation. We've had a murder rate of almost 600 murders yearly, which is unbelievable. We are probably now 6th in the world per capita as one of the most murderous places in the world. This in a country awash with money. Trinidad and Tobago, as you know, is a country in the Caribbean, probably the wealthiest country, and yet we have the most crimes. So obviously there's a demonic imbalance, I would say. Because when as your previous speaker said, the honorable former senator said, it's a matter of greed, as we know, and bad governance, and that is true. But it's also a matter of apathy on the part of the citizens, who really should demand more change. And that is my biggest problem with our Caribbean community. We do not demand the change. We vote on ethnic lines. We vote on we don't vote on substance. And that is unfortunate. And I think maybe it's a legacy of a colonial mindset, where we prefer to be followers rather than leaders in our own right. And well, you see the results of it across the Caribbean. Someone spoke of St. Lucia, which a place that I know well, an island I know well. I am surprised. I've followed it. I know there's rising crime, but you see, when St. Lucia can reach to that stage as well, then you know you're in a very bad place.
Yeah. Dr. Ferdinand is on this program, and he has lived in Cayman and worked in Cayman, and you're hearing what Senator NAKHID is saying about the state of our youth throughout the region. As someone from the church, can you give us a quick comment on that? He talked about the pain that was in the voices of the young men who were speaking on that video. I heard some of them as they were being interviewed by Christmas List. What's going through your mind as a reverend?
Well, listening to this really is hurtful. It's hurtful in the sense, really, that it's regrettable that our young people have to turn to this type of lifestyle in order to try to make it. And what we find in the Caribbean is that governments are not making the provision for entrepreneurial development among our young people, Marcia. If you talk to most of I've been on the block. I've walked through the block. When I returned to Barbados, incidentally, Senator, I lived in Trinidad for 3 years. And spent some time there among some of the young people there talking. But when I came back to Barbados, we had some of the young people visit us, Marcia, and inevitably it was a case where they didn't feel that they had an avenue to be able to implement their innovations, ideas. Some of them, for example, just wanted to get what you call them, weed whackers and lawnmowers and do a landscaping business. But the whole aspect of getting that done was almost impossible. The red tape, the setting up of a business, having to get the funding, the money, borrow it, and there are all these aspects that are set in such a manner that it makes it very difficult for young people to fulfill some of the dreams that they have. Of course, the other end is, from a minister's standpoint, is the influence that comes from as far back as their family, in terms of some of the challenges that they have been through in their families, the rejection they have had, the sense of which, stepfathers and stepmothers are incorporated into the challenge. And they find that camaraderie within the context of the bloc, and that can lead to a number of other things. But it really falls at the feet of government to make provision for alternative aspects for the young people. And incidentally, Marcia, I was actually, Senator, looking at the Sedition, at the Act, while you were speaking. And I dare say there are going to be some challenges when it comes for the government establishing and proving their case under the Sedition Act that I've just read.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Reverend, for your comment there. I want to go back to Senator NAKHID and ask him. I couldn't help but feeling that you talked about the pain in the voices of the youth, and I heard it too, Senator, when I listened. What do you think is the message that this is going to send to the youth of Trinidad and Tobago and even around the Caribbean, to see that here they were telling their story, and the person who was helping them to get their story out, because I don't know if I would dare go in there to try to get any story from them, but this guy went in and got the story, but he's now locked up and he now has a charge. What message do you think our authorities are sending to these young people, Senator?
Well, it reinforces in the minds of our youth, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the Caribbean, because we have a tendency to deal very harshly and only within the penal system with our youth. Instead of developmental policies, we have all kind of crazy things. Like in Trinidad, we give contracts to the Syrian 1%, who to carry prisoners from the jailhouse to the jail, and millions of dollars instead of developmental policy, as the gentleman, the minister, said previously, where he talked about access to capital, for example. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, if somebody happens to come from one of those communities, you can bet your bottom dollar he can never get a loan to start a business. It's virtually impossible. So we have a lot of those situations, and this reinforces in their minds the lack of care, the lack of empathy, the apathy the government shows towards those communities. Now, the ironic thing, as we said before, these are the communities that vote for the government in Trinidad and Tobago, and probably across the Caribbean. And we have to ask ourselves why. And I think it was heard in the voices. Can you imagine, as the minister said, he has been on the block, as well as I. And I see their yearning to tell their story. I see their yearning to relate to someone who can possibly help them. And unfortunately, our governments across the Caribbean forget the poor and working class people of the Caribbean. And the reason for that is, I think most of our people have been miseducated, even in government. Our politicians come into government to become millionaires. Very few of our politicians come in having completed a career. And I'm not bragging, but I'm proud of having done that. I came into politics having completed basically my life and made my name. And I think it's something we should have within the Caribbean, that politicians should have actually achieved something so that they don't come into politics hoping to become millionaires. And that is what has happened across the Caribbean. And it's something that has been a blight, a cancer on our body politic within the Caribbean. and the youths are suffering because of it. And in their minds, they cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. If they locked up Christmas list, he got bail, but their story, as far as they are concerned now, their story can never be told or can never be listened to by the authorities. And that is a tragic, that is not sad, it's tragic.
Marcia, you see, the same thing I've been saying about all politicians in Barbados.
You're a little low. You're a little low, Mr. Franklin.
No, I said that's the same thing I was saying about all politicians in Barbados. Most of them are paupers. They come in and they look to make they make a living out of the country, you know, and that is the result. Most of them in the present administration don't have a job outside of then as the government changes, you know. But there's one thing I wanted to say. In 1937, a Trinidadian man came here, and he started to open the eyes of the people, and they got rid of him, and that sparked the riots. People like to call them the disturbances and all that kind of stuff, but they were riots. Now, Trinidad learned from that, and a Canadian goes to Trinidad, and he didn't even open the body eyes. He just let the world see what is happening in Trinidad. And because these young men's stories are not getting out now, they might be angry, you know. So you might be looking at Trinidad, might be a powder keg. You know, you have history of coups, you know, and something stupid can happen again if the politicians don't stop this nonsense and trying to shut up everybody who wants to speak out. This man wasn't speaking. Sedition is when you try to overthrow an established authority, whether it's the government or whatever. That is sedition. He had no intention of trying to overthrow anybody, so it can't be sedition. So what are they doing? They are intimidating him, and they're trying to keep those young men in their communities killing each other, rather than let the world see what is happening out there. And they're going to pay for it, you know.
Yeah. Let me bring thank you so much Mr. Franklin. As I heard him speak, I could hear you in my head, because you've been saying the same things that Senator NAKHID was saying just a while ago, the exact thing Senator NAKHID. But let me bring in former Senator Maxine McLean in this conversation. And Ms. McLean, you know, you were the Minister of Foreign Affairs here in Barbados, and something like this has happened for Trinidad. I mean, it is everywhere you go on YouTube. It's there, and it is negative, because people are believing that freedom of speech in Trinidad is under, freedom of expression in Trinidad is under attack. As a minister, a former Minister of Foreign Affairs, do you see that this is a challenge for Trinidad in terms of the international scene?
Marcia, let me say this: the heads of government in Barbados and Suriname and Trinidad, I believe, were celebrating when we had a YouTuber from Ghana talking about the beautiful beaches and all of these things at Christmas. We had Wodamaya here. We had African Princess. We have what's his name from Nigeria. Basically, what he did is his choice of subject forced us to hold up a mirror to the society, and it's reflecting something negative. It was fine when they were celebrating, come to Carnival, come to Crop Overs, enjoy Queen's Park at Christmas in Barbados, whatever the case may be. But this is also our reality. The reality is that across the Caribbean, crime and violence among the youth, and not only youth, crime and violence, these things are out of control. And what we have to recognize, and I noticed Senator NAKHID when he mentioned citizen apathy. The truth is, a lot of us, and I'm sure what is happening in Barbados, until something happens on our doorstep or to us, you know, the reaction to is an what I call an I am okay attitude. So in essence, it is those guys over there or in that community doing these things without recognizing the implications for everybody, and more importantly, or failure to look at genuinely trying to address these problems. Caswell, I must join the senator and say I came into politics. I didn't come looking for anything. I was close enough to retirement to have.
And I know I used to be on the supervisory committees.
So
I know you're
come from yeah. But in all seriousness, the part of the problem is white people going to politics for the most part, and sadly, I am seeing a significant percentage of what I would call a generation of politicians who are not there with a vision to improve the lives of the people that they seek to serve. And so for me, I say to any Caribbean politician, I've sat, as you said, for 10 years with many of them on from all sides on the political divide across CARICOM and elsewhere. And the truth is, we have to be real in terms of looking at our situation in every facet of our lives in our respective countries. And so I simply say to the people, why are you embarrassed? You're not embarrassed when they're celebrating, quote unquote, the positive things. Rather than seek to shut up and penalize, ask yourself what is it that would bring him to the region to focus on this? If the problems were not there, he wouldn't be there. And he's not there for any altruistic reasons. He is doing that because this is how he makes his money, I am sure. And I think that was what you said. And so what he's seeing in Trinidad, I noticed somebody said he was supposed to come to Barbados. I remember following, as I said, the young Ghanaian blogger that was here. He started in Brazil and he went down to Trinidad, up to Jamaica and wherever, and spent months in the region. Now, if he is saying these are the positives, I am comfortable with, well, the truth hurts, but I say I am comfortable with them highlighting. So what it is that the government should be able to say to counter, and not only the Trinidad government, because if it comes to Barbados, we're going to hear of the problems we have here. If we go to St. Lucia, you're going to hear of the problems you have there. Bahamas is having serious problems with violence and criminal activity. What we should be able to say is, look, these are the problems, but these are the initiatives that we are using to counter these problems. So, I think we have to be realistic. These are the crime effects. We are a tourism region. People come here on holiday and become victims of petty and serious crime.
Yeah.
So we can't pretend it doesn't exist.
Thank you so much, Ms. McLean, for that input. And I love the analogy with, or the comparison with those bloggers from Africa that have been showcasing beautiful Caribbean, the beaches. And now that someone comes and say, okay, well, let's lift up the covers then. And they were doing it for the same thing as Senator NAKHID said. This man was about, he's making money. It's a business. And those that came from Africa were about business, about clicks and likes as well. But let me go back to Senator NAKHID before I bring Kimar into this discussion. He's a young man who's here with us on this show as well. Let me ask Senator NAKHID, do you think, sir, that this has what is it saying as it relates to freedom of expression in Trinidad? Do you think that freedom of expression is under attack in Trinidad?
I think freedom of expression is under attack everywhere in the Caribbean and around the world right now. I mean, we only have to look. That's right. We only have to look at what's happening with the genocide on the Palestinian people, and if you are against it, and I think it's the same when it comes to the Caribbean. Listen, let's not hide behind our fingers. Historically, the Caribbean, our governments have tended to be heavy-handed and almost repressive when it comes to people who disagree with them. That's a fact. We've had that in several countries. I won't go into it for the sake of time, but that's a fact. A lot of sometimes government override independence in these institutions, and freedom of expression is one of those things that suffer because of that. And we don't admit, we tend in the Caribbean to want to look through things with rosy lenses. You know, everything is nice, and we tend to fall into that narrative that the colonialists left. You know, that everything just nice and easy and airy and since I'm small, I'm saying no. Everything is not rosy and airy and nice and easy, and we're not this laid back, cool people. We're not supposed to be. We're not gonna get substantive development for our young people, especially our marginalized communities. If we continue in that vein, there must be a culture shift. There must be a mental shift. As Brother Bob said, there must be emancipation from mental slavery, which we are in. And I called it, as far as this government is concerned, they have created ghettos of the mind. And I would say that's also the situation with a lot of marginalized communities up and down the Caribbean, where we have created ghettos of the mind. Whereas someone said before, all they want is a worker, or all they want is a corporation job. All they want is to go and work, and they settle to work from 7 to 12 and then go home. There's no sense of entrepreneurship. There's no sense of wanting to be independent, because that's what our governments across the Caribbean they have perpetrated. Look at the communities in the Caribbean who have thrived. We have people who have come after our African people, our Indian people, and have prospered more than we have. Well, do they work harder than our people? No, they don't. But they have benefited from government contracts and access to capital. But we don't like to admit that. We don't like to admit that. So we let them direct the narrative. And I am saying, as Caribbean people, we need to take over the narrative and not let this utopian narrative put by some of the governments and politicians. Some of them, who, if they were not politicians, are virtually unemployable. We let them direct a utopian narrative over what is our dystopian reality. And that's just a fact.
Yeah, wow. I tell you, very passionately put. Kimar, good night, and I just want to bring you into this conversation here. We were talking about freedom of expression in Trinidad as a result of this Christmas list case. But as Senator NAKHID ably said, that it is something that is right throughout the Caribbean. It's not just our freedom of expression is under attack. Period. Right throughout the region. Kimar, can you talk about Barbados? Do you see our freedom of expression under attack? Can you tell Mr. Senator NAKHID what is happening in Barbados as we speak? Our freedom of speech and expression, because I don't know if he knows. Can you do that for us, Kimar?
Hey, good night, Marcia. Good night, Caswell, Maxine, Pastor Ferdinand, and to all of the members of the loyal opposition. And good night to Senator NAKHID over in Trinidad. How are you doing tonight?
Good night. Thank you.
Yes. Happening in Barbados, we have the Cybercrime bill, and this bill, if passed, is intended to have the police charge and lock up Barbadians 7 years in jail or $70,000 or both as a punishment if you post anything on the internet that is considered to be cyberbullying, that is considered, if you feel hurt, if you feel embarrassed, if you say something whether true or not, you could be taken. So they really want to take away expression and the freedom of speech for Barbadians, and we're seeing it in Trinidad with this Sedition Act, and we're seeing it in Guyana with their cybercrime legislation. And we had people who went to our parliament and tell the drafters of the bill on TV that the bill is really there to enact political witch hunts on people and to stop innocent Barbadians who may want to speak out from speaking out against the government and its overreach in terms of governance. and we protested. We protest. Every Saturday. We have marches. We have uh, rallies. We have these shows where people come online and speak the truth. And it's become so impactful that almost everything we see on here, then the government comes the next day and try to fix it. So we've been here trying to get them to pull back on this cybercrime bill that they want to pass, and just in time for Cricket World Cup. So Cricket World Cup is going on in Barbados, so they know that things are going to happen, right? And us, along with other Barbadians, will come on the internet and speak about it. So $50 million to repair Kensington Oval, and if you look at the state of Kensington Oval, you can see clearly that that is not $50 million worth of repairs. So usually there's something faulty in everything that the government does, and that includes corruption. So when we get the facts and the figures, we come on here and we express the truth about corruption in government. So a bill like the cybercrime bill would essentially see any of us on this platform being charged doing time of 7 years or $70,000 or both.
Yeah.
And that is basically it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kimar. And I don't know if Senator NAKHID has heard anything about our the cybercrime bill, where well, actually that is why we got so interested in this case in Trinidad, because we recognize that people who like myself, if you were to broadcast something and you embarrass the government, you could get into trouble. According to this bill, if you embarrass anyone, our cybercrime bill embarrass anyone, as Kimar was saying, if they feel intimidated, if they feel hurt, if they feel annoyed, or whatever the case might be, you could go to jail for 7 years or $70,000. Senator NAKHID, did you hear about that?
Yes, I have heard. I follow Caribbean politics. Clearly, I follow it distinctly, and I heard about it, and it goes back to what I've always said. Caribbean politicians talk a good game, a very good game. They talk from a historical perspective about colonialism and our independence when they speak to the first world in first world conferences. And I'll be very clear, our Prime Minister Keith Rowley is like that. I would say the Barbados Miyamoti is like that. All of them, I've heard all of them. They speak about liberation and about this, and we should have reparations. But in their own countries, they are very repressive.
Yes.
In their own countries, and that's a fact. I'm not saying that, but it's time we speak clearly. I don't care if it's Mia Motley, who has a sterling reputation abroad. Everybody sees her as speaking up to the first world powers and all that. But I know on the ground it's very different. And this cybercrime bill is exactly one of those demonstrations of that lack of intent to allow the population in the Caribbean countries to have their say. You cannot get your share of the pie if you can't even get a share of your say. And it is happening too much in the Caribbean now, where they feel they have to direct the narrative. They feel they have to repress the voices of their citizens of CARICOM. But when they go out to the first world, they talk a good game. They talk an excellent game. While they are as repressive as any dictator in any other country around the world. And I think we should call them out, and platforms like this one is exactly why people should come on and be honest and try to effect change.
Yes, and we, it's good to hear that. Today I was speaking to a Jamaican, Senator NAKHID, and an activist, and we were telling them about the cybercrime bill, and they were just in total shock about it. They couldn't believe, and that this is, you mean Barbados would be a motley. So it's interesting to hear you having this perspective and having heard her on the international stage, and still be able to recognize the disparity, the difference in what happens here on the ground, and be bold enough to speak about it. At least you're in Trinidad. They can't reach over there to get you. So we're going to have to hold on to
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I'll come to Barbados tomorrow and say the same thing.
All right. Well, we need to get you here for a roadside parliament.
I will come to Barbados. I will go to Jamaica, in Kingston. I will go anywhere. As long as it's for the benefit of our Caribbean people, I will go anywhere and speak to any leader. And whatever they think they can do, they can try to do. I have been jailed in Lebanon on behalf of African players. I've been detained in Washington protesting against apartheid in the 80s when I was in college. If I cannot stand up for my Caribbean people, then I might as well pack my bags and go back to the Middle East.
Yeah, so you're from the Middle East.
My origins, yes. But I'm firmly a Caribbean man.
Yes.
Born and bred in the Caribbean.
Totally understand that. Sir, I don't want to keep you. I mean, but the time is going. But you said something, and earlier you talked about having plans. You said that I made a note of it here, but you were talking about politicians coming to power, and they do not have plans for communities like the Laventales and here in Barbados, the Deacons, and in Jamaica, the Big Lane where I'm from, and those kinds of communities, garrison communities. They're not having any plans. What are some of the plans that you have? You are now in the opposition. What are some of the plans that you have for these communities?
Well, it's very clear. We have to give the same opportunities that we gave to the Syrian community here, the Chinese community here. We have to give the same to the African and Indian communities. We have to give them industry. What makes money is what eliminates poverty. It's clear. All the talk about this and that, money eliminates poverty. How do you get money? You get money through industry. But you cannot give all the industry where like in Trinidad and Tobago, where you have all the 1% communities who own all the food import businesses. They own all the agribusiness, all the supermarkets, and then talk about liberation, economic liberation for our African and Indian communities. That's rubbish, complete rubbish, duplicity at its best. What we need to do is put industries in those communities that are marginalized. Give them a chance in those communities to own those businesses. Take pride where they feel that from generation to generation, you're going to create wealth for the next generation that comes. Just like what happened when they gave that chance to the Syrian, the French Creole people in Trinidad and Tobago. I guess the same in Jamaica, the same in Barbados. Who owns the capital? Who owns the wealth of the country? I can tell you it's not the African or Indian people. I'm sure about that. So we need to shift the whole dynamics of how things are done, how we perceive our communities, and not be taken in by these politicians who just like to parade themselves to the outside world. It's important to them. It's important for Mia Motty to look good to England and what a champion she is on climate change, and the same with Rowley and like all of them hypocrites to the maximum. While our major stakeholders, our people, they suffer.
Wow. Kimar, I'm going back to Kimar. Kimar came on little late. Kimar, oh my Lord. Kimar, you heard Senator NAKHID's response to the question that I posed to him about what is his solution, and he's talking about marginalized communities and giving people, that there be equity in terms of entrepreneurship and everything. Kimar, what are your thoughts about what you just heard? You're a young politician coming up. What are your thoughts?
Well, I always support entrepreneurship. I support equitable society, but as we see, there's a culture in the Caribbean of corruption. and robbing the young generation of the future. So until we get that scourge of corruption in public office out of our landscape, the youth of the country will forever have a hard time in terms of progressing. We see as more and more Caribbean brothers and sisters come on the show that we all have the same problems, right? So it's not just Barbados, we all have the same problems. Young people suffering the same issues in every Caribbean country. So we need systemic change through the Caribbean, and we need a new vision and a new way of seeing things. So I much like Maxine, who is a avid supporter of small business, and she has extensive and practical knowledge in the area of business and entrepreneurship. I am always very supportive of any chance I can to help innovate and bring new industry in any area. However, Marcia, we need to not look past the issue anymore, but we need to directly address the fact that the people, particularly but any generation, all generations, are not getting their just due, because we have people who we tend to put in office who engage in nefarious acts and often rob the people of their birthright. And a simple example could be that of the whole project right here in Barbados.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Kimar. We have 5 minutes on the show, and I thought this was an important topic to really just discuss and to air it out. It's good to hear from our Caribbean brothers and sisters, isn't it? It's refreshing, it's strengthening. Because as Kimar was saying, we are sharing the same burdens, carrying the same issues. Which is why we asked Senator NAKHID to be on the show tonight. And I just want to, as we want to come up with our final comments as we close off tonight. As I said, we have five minutes, and I want to go to Senator Maxine. I mean, former Senator Maxine McLean. I'm sorry, I was going to say Senator NAKHID, but I'm going to leave Senator NAKHID for last tonight. Senator McLean, you've heard all that Senator NAKHID had to say tonight about the Caribbean, and our leaders and our young people and the different groupings of people, and what are some of the solutions. What is your take on this whole thing issue tonight?
I think, Marcia, we spend a lot of time in the Caribbean doing what I call diagnosing, describing, discussing matters. A lot of the problems that we have, the genesis of those problems are well known. But the question is, what is the commitment? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, I think Caswell made a critical part of solving the problems. And here we're talking about crime and violence and young people being lost and being alienated from the society and manifesting that in what we are seeing. A lot of it is about the absence of what I would call a serious commitment to make a difference and to tackle the problem and put the resources there. I usually don't, because of the nature of your program, get into a lot of comparisons, because I know some of your audience gets antsy and would say, well, she's part of a former administration and therefore she's critical. But I am saying that a lot of attention is not being paid. Adequate attention is not being paid. We would see governments, and I say governments year after year, plowing a lot of money into tourism. Yes, it's an important sector, but a fraction of that, if put to serious programs, especially, and I say especially young men. I spent 17 and a half years teaching at KFL. And for that entire period, and it is probably even worse now, male students were in the minority. There were less male students than there were female students. And the question is, why is that? And what is it that young men want and need to do, have done for them to address their particular interests, etc.? And we talk about it. We see it in reports coming from the chancellors, the vice chancellors, the principals, and whatever. But year on year, and I can tell you, I've sat in a place where those issues were discussed and some efforts were made, not necessarily enough. But I am saying that we know to a large extent what a lot of problems are, but we need to be willing to put the kind of resources to address them, because at the end of the day, poor people are often seen as dispensable.
Yes.
People of my generation got out of poverty as we saw it through a commitment to education and whatever, but that alone is not enough.
Yes.
And so really and truly, it is about the will to make a difference and a commitment to appreciate that the problems that we're seeing, we must take them on individually and collectively.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day,
yes.
we can't escape it.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. McLean. Caswell, what would you say to Caribbean politicians if you were at CARICOM and you had them all in one room? Why am I asking him this question though? And you have them all in one room, in light, on a serious note though, and in light of what we've been discussing tonight about crime and our youth, our Caribbean youth, what would you say to them?
But what I would say to them, Marcia, I would get charged with sedition. Seriously, the Caribbean politicians are not fit for purpose. They don't do what they go out there and campaign to do. They come out and say all these nice fancy words. But then when they get elected as a commitment to self, not to the people, like we had politicians like Alvaro Grantley Adams. Grantley Adams died a poor man. Right? He died with a mortgage on his house that they finally paid off enough years after he died. As a matter of fact, I used to be a person, and one of my jobs to collect the mortgage payment, and so I had his information in my office at the time. I used to work for the public trustee, and he wasn't rich. Barrow was an average man, but no. When you get into politics in Barbados, and NAKHID is correct, we fellas want to become millionaires, and they want to become millionaires in the first term. We had a politician who became a millionaire, and made his mother a millionaire in 5 years, and he was only making about $15,000 a month. He was able to save, out of that $15,000 a month, he was able to save $5 million in 5 years. You see. That is the problem, and I wish I could do that kind of saving. But when you were talking there just now, I was searching for a cartoon. I sent it to all of you there. It was a cartoon that I saw. It said the guy says, "Dad, I'm considering a career in organized crime," and the father responded by asking, "Government or private sector?" Because that is the problem in the society. We got organized crime wherever you go. You got organized crime in government, and you got organized crime in the private sector. And what we need, I can say, is a Traore. That's his correct name, Ibrahim Traore. We need somebody like him.
That's right.
Until we get politicians who stop seeing self.
That's right.
We're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Franklin. We're hearing what you've been saying on this show every single night. Not every night, but most nights when we talk about this issue, we heard someone from Trinidad come on here and said the same thing. And I want to just acknowledge that. Let me get to Kimar, or our youth throughout the Caribbean region. It is said Senator NAKHID, who's I think he's having some difficulties. I believe he's going to try to get back in. But you know, he was talking about just the state of our youth. And if we think of Barbados, we can just think it's the same thing in Trinidad, the same thing, you know, in all throughout the region, really. What do you say to our young people tonight, who voice in a way was quelled, where this young man Christmas List was trying to share their stories, and now he's had to take down their stories? What do you say to our young people tonight, Kimar?
Well, I watch TikTok sometimes, so I see a lot of videos from across Caribbean, and I realize that the crime and violence problem in Trinidad is so bad, that people down there constantly live in fear. It seems that the government can't get the crime situation handled, and you see, they run over the Minister of National Security down there. I even saw a video where they chased them out to the communities when they went canvassing. Right. So in Jamaica, we know that we had issues with that, but it is stretching across countries, you know, like Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Kitts, Bahamas, even some of the more quiet islands like Caymans. So we don't manufacture weapons this side of the world, so they're coming in from somewhere, right? They're funneling, and despite assistance from the international community in terms of these treaties that we signed on, even some of the ship rider programs to tackle the illegal drug trade and the illegal trafficking of firearms, it's still not working because they're still getting into the hands of young people who they claim are unemployed and don't have no work, but are able to afford these things that cost thousands of dollars, right? And filling up prisons, and as we hear on the show, how young people are being treated in the prison systems will continue a very destructive cycle to destroy the societies and the young life in the Caribbean. So I send a prayer out to all of the young people in the Caribbean to remember the other day that we were leading revolutions, political revolutions through the Caribbean, right? We had the riots in 1930s, riots throughout the whole Caribbean. We had all types of political revolutions through the Caribbean that were led by young people. So how did we get from there to now being a gun-wielding, gun-toting society and shying away and leaving the politics to very nefarious characters? And then we wonder where we have slipped. So I think we need to refocus and get our young people back into becoming activists, get them back into civics, get them back into studying politics, because if our younger generations through the Caribbean put the focus in the politics, I'm telling you that most of these politicians and traditional political actors will be chased out and exiled from the Caribbean, much similar to what we see happening in Africa, where a lot of the young people are rising up and chasing out a lot of these corrupt leaders out of the countries and sending them over to exile.
Wow. No, I'm telling you that is that is powerful. As somebody says, we need, yeah, we really need some of what's happening over there in Africa. As we close out, I'm not seeing Senator NAKHID. I think something happened. He dropped out. But Dr. Ferdinand, as the one here with the spiritual experience, I put it, the background. What's going on in your mind as you've heard about we discuss the politicians, we discuss governance, we discuss our youth, we discuss crime. What word can you leave with the Caribbean tonight before we close?
Well, I don't want to sidestep the political aspect at all, Marcia, even though I can more than readily offer from a spiritual standpoint and a ministerial standpoint in that. But I don't want to sidestep the political issue. We have in Barbados, and I expressed this over the weekend. We have in Barbados, and I dare say probably in the Caribbean, leaders that are more interested in promoting a colonial agenda than they are their local agenda in terms of their people. We have a prime minister who globetrots all over the world promoting the European Union, promoting climate change, promoting the United Nations, promoting the World Health Organization. She has not promoted a single thing to do with our Back to Africa ancestry. She has not been involved in anything to do with connecting back where Africa is concerned. And she could do well to take a page out of, and I'm glad somebody mentioned it, Tohora in Burkina Faso. Here was a leader that came to power and bought 400 tractors for the poor people in the country to develop farming in the country. When we get politicians who are going to put the interests of their countries ahead of the interests of the international community, then we may begin to see change in the Caribbean. We may begin to see things happening where our leadership in the Caribbean begins to take a page out of the book of the people in Africa, moving away from colonial masters. We are into a new colonial context called neocolonialism, where the slave masters are now our financiers. We have been asking for terms and conditions. What are the things that are happening where those funding aspects are concerned? Africa is one of the richest continents on the planet. Many of their countries could finance the Caribbean countries rather than the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank or any of the colonial masters. But we can see what's happening in Africa right now, where resistance is strong when it comes to getting rid of that colonial position. And that's a political aspect. In terms of the spiritual, I believe we as spiritual leaders have to get up off, and pardon the expression, our backsides and begin to put feet to faith and not just talk about the matter of change, but begin to get out into the communities, begin to get out among those young people. And I've learned from some of those young people in the gang environments that they know the difference between a person who is genuine and a person who is just kind of filling the role, so to speak. So if we're going to go into those communities, and I think we should as spiritual individuals, and we should empower our people. Some of our people are more familiar, Marcia, with those communities than we spiritual leaders are. But we are not empowering them to bring about change and be change agents in their communities. We are not giving them the tools. We are not getting behind them. Churches have the capability in some instances of providing finances for some of those young people to get their businesses going. And I make no apologies for expressing that. I know personally that churches do accumulate significant aspects of financing, but are they looking after the widows and the orphans? Are they helping young people to become entrepreneurs? Are they going out and helping them maybe buy a weed whacker or whatever it is so they can at least get going and show something that when they then go to a financier, they have a track record or they have something that they can present? And that, from my aspect, the church has to become a little, and pardon the expression, a little less heavenly minded and a little more earthly good. Sometimes we just don't see the value, and people don't see the value where the church is concerned, because we keep spiritualizing everything. And I'm sorry, I am not going to be spiritualizing everything. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus did not spiritualize stuff. He dealt with very real issues, and he brought real solutions to the people that were wrong him at the time. And I'll just stop there for the time.
And as Identity says, perfectly said, Rev, perfectly, and a very good note to end on. And I know we had other things, as you saw, advertised that we were going to discuss. It's the second night in a row, Ms. McLean, we've tried to deal with this thing with St. Kitts, and I know you came prepared and so on. I had some technical difficulties with our Calypsonian that took up a lot of the time there. You know what? I think it's fine.
It happened for a good reason. I'll send you a note I'm sending you a note now, so you'll see.
Yes, wonderful. It's, and we're happy to see Kimar on tonight. Guys, thank you all tonight for a great show. Everybody who joined, remember that we on June the 8th, which is Saturday coming up, guys. Saturday. I hope you're getting strength Edwin and everybody. Hope we're getting strength to get back out there on Saturday, June 8th. June 8th. We are not going out there because we have nothing else to do. Listen, today I tried to get a little nap and I couldn't even get back up. Every time I try to get up, I'm falling back to sleep. We're listen, but we are out there, Mr. Franklin, because we understand the importance of protecting our freedom of speech and freedom of expression, our constitutional rights, our human rights. Because when June 14 comes, they're trying to pass this bill in the middle of World Cup, and we must make as much noise as possible. As much noise. Open up your big mouths, and we're gonna make noise in the streets of Barbados. So June 8th, we are starting right there at the lights there, and the name of the place is slipping me. Can somebody help me right now?
Redmond Drive.
Redmond Drive. Thank you very much. Redmond Drive. Right there. That's where we're starting, and then we go part of Broad Street. We make a left there at Woolworth, and the beautiful thing is that we get to meet people on Swan Street, which we never did before, and that's wonderful. And we go all the way to Independence Square, and again we have our speeches, music. And for that march, Dr. Ferdinand, we have a Calypsonian that's going to be on that truck with us for the first time, live singing. And that is Richard Antonio with the Guard. And he's going to be singing on the truck and with anything else. And he's free to bring any other Calypsonians with him once everything is in order. And without breaking the Public Order Act, and they could come on down. And then the Sunday, we're going to be at Hastings Rock on Sunday, June the 9th. Again, we have so many speakers. I'll be able to tell you them all tomorrow. Kimar is confirmed as well. Reverend Joseph Atherley is confirmed. We've confirmed Richard Seeley. We've confirmed Lynette Eastman, and I can't remember everybody right now, but we are working on it to bring also some freshness to the whole thing. And we have Calypsonians from a Junior Monarch competition who will be with us. So Dr. Ferdinand, get ready.
I unfortunately am not going to be able to produce a song in time for Sunday.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. And Dave Weeks, thank you for being behind there, and he's still putting up stuff. And
yes,
he makes
absolutely.
the show exciting. And thank you, Dave. We appreciate you. Thank you for what you do. God bless you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. And we're going to see you again on Wednesday, God willing. Take care of yourself and use your social media pages to promote. When you see the posters, promote the posters. When you see the pictures, whatever is put up, share it. God bless you all. And have a good night. And I know Dave promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. Barbados is too small for me. My pocket full, now you and job they promise me. And a girl like me want power and more money. You cry transparency, but that's a no for me. Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. All right, all right,
Well,
all
well,
right, all right, all right. I saw Caswell there moving. Caswell want the
well,
other
well,
one? You want the
No, no,
other
I
yeah,
one?
was
you
just
can't
I
close.
was
You
just
can't
waiting for
close the show. You can't close the show without without
Pretending to
casual
be good
song.
at
Without
math,
the
You
not
can't
other
do that.
one?
English. I
Well,
just pretending to care about people. Good at maths nor English. English, 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 English. Pretending to be good. I pretending to be good, good, good. Just pretending to be good. I pretending to be good, good. I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good, 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 good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. Good, 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 good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Oh my goodness!
oh Lord have
Praise
mercy.
God.
These people love too much songs. They want me to play the guard. No, not tonight. We're gonna play, God willing, we will play it on on Wednesday night. Okay. Good to see everybody. God bless. Keep
God
sharing,
bless.
keep
yeah, right.
liking, and telling somebody
Bye bye.
about the show. God bless everybody. Great job, panelists. Thank you all so much. God bless. Bye bye.
Amen. Praise God. Bye bye.